Dennis Aseto. The Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission has concluded voter registration in all 1,450 county assembly wards, institutions of higher learning and Huduma centers countrywide. The Commission has also concluded the exercise in the United States of America, Qatar, Germany, South Africa, Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, South Sudan and the UK. However, voter registration in the United Arab Emirates and Canada will be concluded on the 14th of February and 15th February respectively. According to a statement by IEBC Chair Fula Chebukati, by close of business on the 6th of February 2022, the ECVR Phase 2 exercise had realized a total of 1,031,645 new voters. Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta has called for less talk and more service delivery by elected politicians, hitting out at leaders who spend time criticizing the government. The president, without mentioning names, said there is a section of politicians moving around the country telling Kenyans what they have done. He said Kenya has made great strides in achieving universal healthcare for all, saying the country is heading in the right direction. President Uhuru spoke as he presided over the official opening of this year's Health Workforce Conference. And the Central Organization of Trade Union Secretary General Francis Atwoli has criticized leaders mandated with the protection for health workers in the country, saying they have neglected their duties. Speaking at the launch of the Universal Health Coverage Program, Atwoli said there are individuals in the government who want workers in the National Hospital Insurance Fund and the National Social Security Fund to be fired and should be cut off from their positions. He argued that workers should receive their dues as they are the major contributors to the social welfare of the institutions. And the Ministry of Health has confirmed 55 new COVID-19 cases from a sample size of 4,054 tested. This brings the positivity rate to 1.7%, up from 1.2%. This brings the total number of cases recorded since the virus hit the country in 2020 to 322,151 out of the 3,261,313 tests conducted so far. Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta has said that he is at liberty to pick whoever he deems best to succeed him in the August general election. President Kenyatta, speaking in Changamwe, Mombasa County, said that although he is not propping anyone as his successor, he has the freedom to select who is best suited to be president. The head of state further advised Kenyans to choose their leaders wisely come August, warning against anyone perpetuating hate and divisive politics. Now, lawyers have taken a swipe at the courts for delayed clarification over the resignation of civil servants and state officers who wanted to vie for elective posts in the August 9th general election. Led by High Court Advocate Peter Wanyama, they want the Court of Appeal to intervene speedily in providing a way forward over the matter, which has elicited mixed reactions from both the electorate and aspirants. Cabinet secretaries and other top public servants seeking elective office in the August 9th general election have today only to quit their planned jobs following a directive by the head of public service, Joseph Kinyua. And activist Charles Rubia has filed a judicial review against the Office of the Commissioner on Administrative Justice Ombudsman for failing to take legal action against the Director of Public Prosecution. Rubia, through lawyer Dunstan Omari, seeks to compel the Office of Ombudsman to investigate the DPP on allegations of maladministration, administrative injustice, incompetence, misbehavior, and inefficiency within public service. According to Rubia, the judicial review comes after the Office of the Ombudsman failed to take legal action against the Director of Public Prosecutions approximately 3 months after being petitioned. Rubia argues that the Office of the Ombudsman should be disbanded if it fails to probe the allegations against the DPP. And a resident of Malava in Kakamega County is stripped naked after losing 10,000 shillings in a bullfighting bet. Martin Mwanje from Lukube village lost the bet after his bull fled the fighting scene even before locking horns with its opponent, a giant bull from a neighboring village. Mwanje is said to have placed a 10,000 shillings bet with the opponent also placing an equal amount, bringing the total payout amount to 20,000 shillings. This meant that the winning bull would see its owner walk home with 20,000 shillings while the loser would go home empty. The event, which many consider cultural engagement for the people of the region, attracted a mammoth crowd, most of them chanting at the two bulls as if to encourage them to lock horns. This is News Why I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
You know, when you see someone being jailed, a governor or two or someone who stole, then people will fear. Because our problem is not the borrowing, it's the stealing.
We've become actually a nation of thieves. The only thing we lack is an opportunity to steal.
The guys who quote the Bible and say I'm a Christian and all that, and you know they're thieves. Return what you have stolen 4 times. If you know that you have property or anything that you have stolen, just return and say, my God does not allow me to hold stolen things.
We are also a reflection of you, because you elect us. You know, we don't get into our office by ourselves. We are a reflection of the people who elect us.
We don't want to go to the streets. We have a constitution that enables us, assert our will.
When the legislature are now being taken as hostage by the executive for whatever reason, we are now bound by what they want us to do.
This is just outside the realms of reality. We have impunity written into the DNA of our political class.
How old were you when you learned that Judicial is Jeshi la Wokovu?
I can't say it very well. No,
and everyone knows. Okay.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. SpiceFM, Nakuru.
Tuesday, second day of the week, and what do we have in store? It looks like the roads are looking pretty good, at least for now. Not too much happening in Nairobi. There's a little bit of action on the Thika Superhighway coming into the city, but there's nothing major with that now. Usual suspects, Jogo Road starting to build up, and a little bit on Langata Road here and there. Waiaki Way is also doing its magic this morning, already starting with traffic today. If you're out early, you might want to take advantage of the empty streets at this point and get where you're going in quick, fast, and in a hurry. All right, what's happening on Outer Ring? Not much. And let's look at Mombasa Road, flowing free and clear, at least for now. We're looking at the Eastern Bypass. A little bit of action right at that junction of the AP Training College. Apart from that, it looks like those who've left and who are on the roads right now having a swell old time. How about we make it just that way for everybody else? Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
8
This
minutes
is
after
the
6
Situation
on
Room,
the 8th
the
day
only
of February 2022. Hamjambo, welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. We are well. City is not.
No, I'm very well.
Oh, okay. What's up?
The Swahilis would say, najisikia. I'm trying to just, I'm communicating with my whole body. And next.
Wajaribu kujisikiza namna hii. Nini?
Okay, sawa.
Tuko sawa.
So now you can answer. How are you, City?
I'm very well, thank you, sir.
Very good. You have confirmed.
I've done a systems check.
Yes.
Reboot. Restart.
Ndu?
Yeah.
How's your system?
My system. Oh, I heard my sister. My system is all right.
Yeah.
Or should we say system? Ndio sasa uelewe vizuri.
System.
System, yeah, dumble. Sorry. You were saying?
Hey.
How are you, Eric?
I'm very well.
Very well, even.
Yes.
These are good things.
You know,
do tell.
there's a generation of Kenyans who call education system.
Which generation are we speaking of?
I think it should be younger than
me.
Yours.
Younger than whose?
Cities.
Oh.
Yeah, still younger, I think. Those who are still in the youthful years. Yeah, nimetoka system.
As opposed to? Nimetoka shule.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Interesting.
And the system.
And the system is cool.
I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know the origin of
It's
that.
weird. It's colloquialism, no? It's
Yeah.
not,
I don't know what. I mean, why call it system? What is it?
it's like why call bread buffalo?
Oh, well, now that one, surely. What are you asking?
I'm still asking
No,
why call
it
bread
is-
buffalo.
it's actually a very
I
valid
re-
question.
it's actually a genuine, authentic question.
Buffalo.
What is that? What is that?
See, it's bread.
You see?
Why
See,
do you,
it's
why
cool.
why call it bread?
Why call it? Why not call it?
At Mugati.
You know,
Buffalo.
if
What
we
is
go,
that?
if we go along that road, really, you're right. There are many words that we take for granted and we use on a daily basis.
And if you ask
Yes.
yourself the origin of this,
Yes, you
And
want.
you don't ask where did this come from. So the same thing you're asking: system. Where did this come from? Buffalo. What is that?
Because, for instance, yeah.
Isn't it?
For instance.
Yeah. For instance, it is. For instance.
buffalo.
Well done, CT.
Okay, welcome to the show. We'll have some conversations at 7 a.m. Let's have a conversation about the cost of living in the country. What is it that's driving up the cost of living? We saw the data that's come out of the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics talking about the cost of living, and it's on the rise, on the up and up. And we're asking ourselves, so what is it that has caused this? Is it cost of inputs? Is it taxation? Is it what is it that's making the cost of living go up? We'll have an expert on this, an economist and a governance expert, Dr. Mumo Mwinde. He'll be joining us at 7. And then at 8, we'll talk about the politics. So it's all over in the papers today, what the President Uhuru Kenyatta was saying in Mombasa yesterday. We know that the Jubilee Party is due to hold a National Delegates Conference. We also know that there's a plan to have a major rally that's going to have all these parties endorse Raila as their joint presidential flag bearer. So what is Jubilee's gameplay in this whole Azimio coalition? The Jubilee Coalition Parliamentary Group Secretary, Eden Kainan, who's also the MP for Eldas constituency, will be with us and will answer these questions. What's the plan? This and more conversations coming up in the show this morning. Hebu tuangalie COVID vile.
All right, 398 million, inching closer and closer. Those are the global numbers of COVID. 398,005,741. That's what we're looking at now. Very quickly, in Nairobi, or rather in Kenya, 55 new cases from a sample size of 3216. Positivity rate of 1.7%, still dropping very low. This is a good thing, and still urging as many people to be vaccinated as much as possible. That is still the clarion call. That continues to be the message in terms of what's going on right now. Interesting story coming out of the UK. So the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine was a British success story. This is what they're calling it, right? It was a homegrown vaccine. It was developed on British soil, and it was rolled out in less than 12 months. Emergency, authorization given out. Let's move.
Including the British enclave of Kilifi. Okay, go on.
Right, of course. Okay. And so what it was essentially, its ambition was to have it a vaccine for the world. This was going to be the COVID messiah from Britain. However, they're seeing that politics and nationalism has gotten in the way. Half of the adult population has received 2 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine in Great Britain. It seems highly likely to have saved more lives than the Pfizer and Moderna jabs combined. Yet, it is now
UK.
barely used by the NHS. NHS is not using this. Remember,
They've got Pfizer.
Yes, NHS now, remember, is the UHC of the darling of, it's the UHC of the world, right?
Of the UK.
In the UK, right? More than 37 million have received a booster dose in the UK, but just 48,000 of those were AstraZeneca.
The others were?
The others were a combination.
Of Moderna and Pfizer.
Yes. The vaccine has been sidelined in the EU It was never approved in the United States. So remember, this thing that they had with the ambition to save the world has only taken Britain by storm, and even by now, it's not taking Britain itself by storm anymore.
Had they themselves, had they approved it?
Oh, the UK?
They'd approved it for themselves, of course, for use. Within 12 months, they'd done all of that.
Just asking.
So the question
So the UK
is,
had approved it, the EU had approved it, but they're lukewarm about the uptake.
The US had said,
US has never said yes to AstraZeneca.
nope.
Has US said yes to anything that they did not manufacture in their boundaries?
No.
So,
And we don't
Remember, they
expect them
even
do
wanted to
that.
buy BioNTech.
Yeah, they wanted to buy the entire company. So they've never.
Trust Trump.
It's
Good thinking.
It's never in their interest. It's very rare that you'll find them doing something like this.
good thinking.
Except for using sweatshops in China, but that's a story for a different day. So the question is, how did they end up here? Talking to scientists, politicians, and commenters about the fate of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, billed by two ministers, interestingly enough, as Britain's gift to the world. So it's like the world is saying thank you, but no thank you. So they've been asking the question, did politics and national interests get in the ambitions for the vaccine? Sir John Bell, who is a professor at Oxford University, and he's the man at the heart of the Oxford vaccine, out of the lab and into the arms of millions, is highly critical about decision makers in the EU and says, basically, they're pushing us aside. We left the EU, and now this is another opportunity for them to stick it to us. Here we are having created something that could essentially save lives. And because of Brexit...
Did someone chase them from the EU?
Here the EU is trying to show us
because they walked
who's
out of the
bigger.
EU,
Yes.
the EU is basically saying, this one has come from you guys.
But the question is, even if you want to follow that narrative, is the EU not going to consider first whatever is produced within the boundaries of the EU?
Sure, and he
is
went
what?
on to say, interestingly
Which
enough,
is what?
he went what have they created?
I have absolutely no idea.
This is the thing, they haven't. The EU largely is using Pfizer Moderna
Yes.
in the EU, not even this one that
And
their
Johnson.
little brother
Yes.
and Johnson & Johnson.
Yes.
Not this one that their little
But-
brother just a
But
mile away
no,
has
no.
created.
This one is the black sheep of the family.
It is because they're a prodigal son, essentially.
The thing is, you walk away. They didn't just walk away from the markets that they enjoyed and the privileges that came with being in the EU. This is a product. It's a commercial product. The EU were at liberty to choose
So
what
is it
they wanted to use.
politics
Let me
or
tell you
is
something.
it commercial?
Interestingly enough, very quickly, that Bell said, he said they have damaged the reputation of the vaccine in a way that echoes around the rest of the world. I think bad behavior from scientists and from politicians has killed hundreds of thousands of people, and that they cannot be proud of.
This story, we're hearing it half-cocked. The decision-making process within the EU as to even what to buy, how to buy it, when to buy it, was in itself a story. They somehow could never arrive at a consensus quickly. So they even lagged behind in that decision-making process. So if Britain suffers as a result of this, whether you want to call it politics, you want to call it bad behavior, did they think that when they Brexited it, that it was not going to have consequences?
But not for something that's going
But
to
surely,
save lives.
No.
Consequence of what, surely?
Save,
I mean,
No,
just
no,
to save
no.
lives on the
No,
planet.
no,
This is a vaccine.
No,
It's
no.
a vaccine that essentially a shot in the arm.
Allow me to
It's a
explain.
shot at
And then
life.
remember what the EU did. The EU started talking about, okay, so if this vaccine has been developed somewhere outside of Europe, somewhere in India, okay, it's still AstraZeneca, but no, we don't recognize this one. It was like
That, my
wow.
friend, is vaccine apartheid. I am simply saying Brexit was a political decision.
Yes.
It was bound to have economic consequences.
And this is one of them.
Yes, and I'm saying the EU and the coming together of all these countries and including other people, that conversation is now heating up because of Ukraine. Because the EU is becoming bigger and bigger, and Russia is saying these guys are now beginning to threaten us because of their size. So you make a decision, one God, there are always consequences. I am not discussing the morality of it. I am simply saying there are consequences.
So you see it more as a political issue, not even commercial.
I'm seeing it more as...
You're not seeing like a commercial issue of one big boy with deep pockets in trying to influence governments into preferring their product over another.
Yes, that I see. But I'm seeing moving away from the EU and opening doors to conversation that wouldn't have been there had you been in the EU. Yes. Because had Britain been in the EU, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
It should have been an expected thing.
Yes, it would be the norm. But the moment you move out, you are the one who has opened that door wide for other conversations to take place.
20 after 6. Let's take this break. We are live streaming the show on YouTube and Facebook, SpiceFM KE. We are also having conversations on Instagram, Twitter, and everywhere else. Are you online? Say hello. We'll be saying hello to you, and we take the roll call after the weather forecasts.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo-soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
Are you a woman looking to run for an elective position in the upcoming 2022 general elections? Spice FM, the home of Kenya's biggest conversation, is inviting you to our studios where you can speak more about your vision and aspirations to an audience of millions of Kenyans as we celebrate women in leadership. For more information, contact us on 0763 969797.
Is clear, highs of 28 today and lows of 14. Clear conditions at 12 in Nyeri, highs of 25. And it's 11 and clear in Eldoret. We'll see highs of 25 today. Clear conditions in Mombasa at 25, highs of 32 and lows of 25. While in Malindi at 25, it's mostly clear. It'll go to highs of 31 today. 17 degrees is what Kisumu's reading this morning, going to highs of 28. We'll see highs of 30 in Kakamega, where it's currently clear at 16. Out in Kampala, it's partly cloudy at 19, highs of 26. While in Dar es Salaam, cloudy conditions at 26, highs of 31 today. Johannesburg is clear at 14. We'll see highs of 25. And it's clear in Lagos for a change at 26, highs of 34 and lows of 24. Rain showers start the morning in Kinshasa at 24. That'll be today's low, going to highs of 33. Out in Beijing, going into early afternoon, it's sunny at 4. We'll see highs of 9 and lows of -6. 7 degrees and cloudy in Paris, highs of 12 and lows of 5. While it's 11 degrees in London, we'll see highs of 13. New York is still reading 3 degrees still Monday night. It's raining, however. 3 will be the high. We'll see lows of 1.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
All right, 23 minutes after 6.
Abdi Kadir Abdallah.
Abdi
Kadir Abdallah. Stop it. Good morning. He's tuned in from Komarok, and he says, hello. Good morning, Kenya. Abu Said says, tuned in from the deserts of Jizan in Saudi Arabia, 60 kilometers from the Yemen border. My goodness. And says, great listening to you. Great to have you in this morning. Good morning, people tuned in from Nyeri, Mombasa, and that's where Ward Ajigo is. Stanley Gashistan says, Juja Farm, live and clear. AFCON 2021 indeed came to close. The Pharaohs weren't happy that the trophy went to Africa. All right. Johnston says he's watching live from Kericho. Good to know, because you're inspired by knowledge. Okay, great. Michael Gital, good morning, folks. Nice to be back online. Looking forward to candid conversations ahead, especially why the high cost of living. Yes. Rogers Lai says, Sabalheri Nyote, tuning from County 001. Freddie Mbai from Kwale County. Peter Ongera at the Kenya railway station watching trains pass by against the rising sun. Well, how poetic of you this morning. Victor Mombasa tuned in. Ndu, tell Eric to share the pin of where he gets those sweaters. Well, there's a compliment for you about how dapper you're looking this morning, Eric.
Maybe anataka kwenda upo achome.
How about we just take the former? MCR today.
Kenyans.
MCR is not in.
MCR is where?
Is in Mwengi, Kitui.
Ametoka Mombasa.
Ametoka Nyali. Cobbs Ronnie is tuning from Qatar Doha. Quite a number of other people online this morning. Pete Ongera, Alex Wajami, and Bade Ashley. How are you, Bade Ashley? Thanks for joining us this morning, guys.
Wait, there's somebody who had sent some nice long Luo greeting.
Hey, yes, Chris
That
Amolo
one.
says good morning.
I read it.
I'm going to butcher it.
Fine.
I don't even know.
You read
Amoso Jo Madongo. Ni Oyaore Uruduto.
Well done.
Awinjo u edala mara Kisumu pacho. Keluru twak makende.
Oh. Very good.
Thank you. Now, what on earth does that mean?
Easy to under. You've done. Actually, the two of you have done actually a good job. Eric did a splendid job in the morning. You've done a splendid job.
Splendid.
Nice. Well done.
Thank you.
What
does
is
it
Chris
mean?
saying?
Saying he greets all of you. Directly translated, Madongo is big, but great people.
Right.
And he greets all of us. Okay? No one is left out. He's listening to us from Kisumu. Okay? Dala Pacho. Yani he's in Kisumu itself. Okay?
Inside.
Yes. Now he says, now bring this unique and distinct conversation, Twak Makende. Okay?
What is Twak Makende?
Conversation which is unique.
Like exclusive.
Good word. Good word.
Okay. Kabisa.
Twak is conversation. When nakubali.
Twak is conversation. And Makende is what?
Unique. Ya kipekee.
Okay. Mazungumzo ya kipekee. Asante sana. Sasa tupatie proverb.
Madogo, yani small.
Sio madongo.
Si madongo.
No, hapana. Yanavuruga watu wasitambuane.
Imeisha?
To the point. Madogo. Yanavuruga watu wasitambuane.
Ala.
Sala. Small things. Small things can prevent people from recognizing each other. Direct translation. But little unresolved things can bring about unnecessary disagreement among people. Yes.
How deep?
Madogo.
Madogo.
Yana?
Vuruga.
Watu.
Yes.
Wasi?
Tambuane. Yes.
It's a nice one. Buana. Thank you very much, Buana. But why have you been giving us Swahili proverbs now for what? It's like 3
Since
months
last
now.
year.
Hey.
No, 2 months.
Hey.
When we get to the middle of the month, I will now get vernacular on us. Yes. Yes. This was just to foster unity among Kenyans.
It's being national.
It's being national. Now we went national towards the end of the year. We are national at the beginning of the year. We're at the 15th of this month. We'll have started the year nicely. We can then now proceed and go completely and utterly vernacular.
Kabisa.
Yes, and continentally.
www.standardmedia.co.ke. Remember, you can access the Standard e-paper also by downloading the app on Play Store and App Store. What's in the papers?
It would seem as though the IEBC is not very happy about the results that they got from the most recently concluded voter registration. Yeah, they're not really happy about this. The exodus of state and public officers. That's what I'm reading the wrong one. IEBC misses 4.5 million goal and shifts to the grassroots. The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission has recorded the lowest voter registration numbers in the last 3 election cycles. That's in 15 years. IEBC only managed 1,031,645 new voters over the second phase of the enhanced voter registration, which came to a close Sunday. With voter apathy blamed for the low turnout, IEBC, which targeted 6 million in the first phase and 4.5 million in the second phase, fell short of making the registration process lower than that of the 2010 referendum. 2013 and 2017, elections. The Commission has now directed registration officers in the 290 constituencies to undertake the CVR by deploying 3 BVR kits per constituency. The kits will be stationed at Huduma centers countrywide. According to IEBC, this will be an opportunity for the eligible citizens, especially those who will have required identity cards after the closure of the eCVR Phase 2, to register as voters. So you got your identification card after they had closed Sunday. You will still then be able to register as a voter across the country
by going to Huduma Center.
Yes.
Okay.
Even though the Commission ramped up its efforts and provided more biometrics voter registration kits per ward and boosted registration of Kenyans in the diaspora, the second phase did poorly compared to the first, which saw 1.5 new registrations. According to a statement from the IEBC, the voter registration exercise for citizens residing outside the country has so far enrolled 2,959 voters, 2,964 requests for transfer, and 2,036 applications for change of particulars. Kenyans also registered as voters in the USA, Qatar, Germany, South Africa, Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, and South Sudan. Additionally, a total of 396,163 registered voters applied to change registration centers, while 2,269 changed their particulars. So, fell off the mark by quite some.
This second round is when we saw billboards directed by political aspirants.
Yes.
We saw communication coming from other quarters, not only the IEBC, and yet they got only 1 million as compared to 1.5 million last year.
Yep.
What is it that has happened this time? Because I refuse to accept this story of voter apathy.
You refused?
I have refused. I don't see how anything that can justify and say that there is actual voter apathy, that the people who we are seeing turning up at, rallies and looking at the politicians and all are not
voters.
Yes.
Or potential voters.
Or excited enough to go and register as voters.
Yeah.
I am not seeing a correlation. And then again, just like the story says, this is the worst in the last 3 cycles of elections, when the IEBC has rolled out the enhanced voter registration. Why this time?
The beginning Thursday last week, on to Friday, Saturday, and even Sunday. It was Saturday, I think. It's not Sunday, Saturday. There were very long queues. I saw one outside St. George's Primary School, saw one at Kilimani Primary School. Very long queues. And not on one day. I took note. I said, how it is. You see an unusual number of people in a place.
You wonder what's happening.
Then you realize, this of course is
coming to an end.
Exactly.
So this is...
Yes, you realize. And the following day, something similar. The day after that, something similar. Where previously, you would pass and not notice a thing.
You didn't even know there was a registration center there.
I know that there is at that school, but you didn't, because there were no people. And suddenly, the numbers... And I noticed that they were very young people. Yes.
So what is it that made them come out on this particular day?
Knowing that it was about to end?
I am not going to venture an opinion on this one. You know why? Because like Eric, I still find this whole thing puzzling. The explanation of, Kenyans like last-minute things, okay. Fine. Or voter apathy, no. The activities that we have seen regarding what we can call the campaign season ought to have had a completely opposite effect to what we are seeing.
Because from experience, we've seen it having a completely opposite effect before.
Yes, so the question I'm asking is, what is this thing that is different? And saying, people are tired of hearing the same thing, then why do they go to listen to the same things that they're tired of?
Why do they go to the rallies?
Yes.
Why do they go to the rallies weekend after weekend
after
weekend?
And they seem excited enough, they chant along, so...
Why do we have still people's parliaments in different pockets around the country?
Yes.
That people are still interested and engaged in the political process.
They are.
So then why then?
Even if you go to social media, you will find political conversations.
Yes.
Whether people are just taunting the candidates, whether they are taunting Musalia Mudavadi and the Ford Kenya guy, or they're taunting William Ruto or Raila Odinga, there are conversations that are taking place.
Yes.
So there's some awareness that there's something that's going to happen later this year. It's not lack of awareness. There's some understanding of the importance and the impact of that. Aye.
In fact, there's an even greater understanding, I would argue, because if you look at just the tempo of the campaigns that have taken place,
yes,
aye, my friend, it's been intense for quite some time. Indeed it has. So I'm yet to arrive at a happy point where I can say this is what I think is happening, because I right now I'm puzzled.
It's confounding. It's 25 minutes to 7. Time for us to take another quick break. I've seen a comment there. Let's see. Is somebody saying, CT, kumbe wewe ni onagi? What is that?
One of the rites of passages that Luos had was the removal of these 4 lower teeth. The process of removing them is nago. So onagi is somebody who has the teeth removed. It's with reference to Luos. Now,
But you don't.
No. The reason why they did that was because when you reached adolescence, you are fit to fight. And many people who went into battle with their neighbors, the Kalenjins, suffered from tetanus. Wounds that are, yes. So, yes. You see, yes. So the understanding was that was, you remove the teeth so that when they got the lockjaw, you were able to feed them. Yes.
But you're not. He's called you, Onagi, but
yes,
you're not.
it's a term that is used to refer to Luos, a fellow Luo.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Moduanyoba, something like that. I see.
Yes.
24 to 7. Then let's take this break. And also, Dikush, who is in the Pearl of the Orient, Manila, Philippines, says we feel at home here now that we have a Swahili restaurant to beat the homesickness.
Well done.
Well, we're all the way in the Philippines. Enjoy, bana. Enjoy, bana.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice FM, Malindi. Spice FM.
It's getting hot in here.
Oh, everybody steals. It's better a thief who brings something small back. And I say to myself, there's no better thief. A thief is a thief, period.
All those bribes, how much they are getting per year, how much inconvenience they are causing. As much as you call it a small case, it's worth it to be convicted.
The truth is, we are a tribal nation. Because if we were not tribal, and I want to go back to this, you cannot continue walking around with a mug which is clean outside and it's rotten inside.
We have become a Fuliza country. We have mortgaged our country because of debt.
You've got one chef working and the assistant chef wakati anatakana koroge unga nini hayuko.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
And that has started. Actually, traffic is not looking too bad right now. A few minutes after 6:30, still on Jogo Road is where we'll see most of the action. A little bit here and there on Langata Road, and it's also piling up on Uhuru Highway. Thika Superhighway, boom, there it is. It wasn't there half an hour ago, but it is now. Going past all SOPs, then towards that junction coming from Outer Ring. The Westlands area is looking pretty good today. Took a big beating yesterday. Hopefully that we will not be able to, rather that we will be able to get through that traffic today. All right, Kiambu Road is where we're also seeing some traffic. The Eastern Bypass, guys, not quite sure what happened today. Hopefully there was no accident, but we're seeing heavy traffic along the Eastern Bypass. And that's getting to the junction of Kangundu Road heading into Ruai. So you want to let me know what's going on there? At least we can spread the news. Talk to us on SpiceFM KE this morning. Text 40127.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
And a similar story has been covered today. So yesterday's story was about Rigathi Gachagua is the MP for Madeira, right? Madeira constituency.
Yes.
So it's about this gentleman who was an agent for Rigathi Gachagua's opponent in the 2017 election for Madeira constituency. After the results were declared, this agent, as a voter, felt that there was something wrong with that election. There were irregularities and filed a petition. Took the petition to court.
That his own guy.
No.
Okay.
The opponent's agent, right? As a voter. You know, many times you see election petitions actually filed by voters, right? So this voter went and filed a petition, and it went through court. He lost. And the judge said that you have lost and you ought to pay the costs of this petition to Rigathi Gachagua. 8 million shillings. Failure to which, committed to civil jail. So the man, of course, was not able to raise 8 million shillings, and the man found himself at Kingongo prison in Nyeri.
Is it a maximum prison?
Yes, it was a maximum wing. So he went to prison.
Allah?
Remember, he's an agent for
The opponent.
Gashagua's opponent. He just felt, no, something didn't go right. Went in. So it's still pending. So Gashagua's lawyer has been saying, the candidate may actually, he's looking at this person and can see clearly this person will not be able to raise 8 million shillings. Remember Gachagua and the kind of money that Gachagua started to have. What's 8 million shillings? But he says the candidate could forego this whole 8 million shillings thing, but this man needs to remember.
Teach a lesson.
He needs to remember. Yes, don't come like that. Today's story. When the IEBC declared Rahim Dawood the winner in the North Imenti parliamentary election of 2017, the former MP Silas Muriuki petitioned. Muriuki accused the electoral body of stealing his victory. According to the IEBC, Dawood had garnered 29,042 votes against Muriuki's 28,894. Their closest challenger out of 8 other candidates was Rajesh Hirani, 3,950. Muriuki sued IEBC, Dawood and the returning officer, arguing that his votes had been stolen. But the High Court in Meru upheld Dawood's election and ordered Muriuki to pay 1 million shillings to the winner, the IEBC and the returning officer. 4 years down the line, Muriuki is not mincing his words against what he termed as an injustice. He says in addition to the 3 million shillings cost he was slapped with, he spent another 3 million shillings on his own legal fees. I lost trust in the electoral system. I lost trust in the judiciary. It's very hurting. From the court process, I spent 6 million shillings. He's a 73-year-old former teacher who now concentrates on his dairy farming venture. He says he spent millions campaigning. His daughter, Karo Muriuki, is gunning for the seat in this year's election. Went to court. File a petition. You've lost. File petition. You lose.
Petitioner beware.
Is that the one?
That's the moral of the story. We are going into an election.
Petitioners beware.
Petitioner beware.
Because they could
beware.
turn against you.
And remember, you are going to pay your own lawyer, right?
Yes.
So you pay your own lawyer and then you're slapped with a fine.
And you pay the fella that you took to court in the first place.
Oh, yeah.
There's that little detail.
Just that little detail.
Panam Cheso.
Petitioner go fear now.
Yes. City.
It's very interesting. Page 10 of the Star. Herbal medicine to become part of healthcare system.
Oh, Lord.
Has it not been?
Not really.
Alternative.
For decades, little attention was paid to traditional medicine, but the state now plans to integrate traditional medicine into the country's healthcare system. Okay. What
so
that
the formal system.
Formal meaning, as you say, nipe asprin.
You say original.
No, you say nipe mwarobaine pia. Yes. Na nipe machi ya simba pia. That sort of
or the
thing.
doctor now prescribing can say, but here huyu mwarobaine.
Just go take mwarobaine, you'll be fine.
Yes.
And
it
chia seeds.
Remember, this is against a backdrop of herbal practitioners plying their trade anyway.
Right.
Okay. Now, the premier research institute into matters medical in this country, Kenya Medical Research Institute, actually has a center for traditional medicine, and they've had them for the longest possible time. And KEMRI is part and parcel of the Ministry of Health.
Yes.
So, I would venture to argue that perhaps it is what has come out of this research institution that has perhaps convinced the government that, it does not harm you to consider including, because people use them anyway, okay? Whether you like it or not, they will still use them.
Yep.
Okay. So that is something I thought I would just mention.
It's interesting. That's a good
Very
one.
interesting.
Yes.
So, here it is. House details of Chinese firms awarded state contracts. Garissa Township MP Aiden Duale made the request last week that they wanted the disclosure of some of these things. Now, Parliament now wants the government to disclose the names and directors of all Chinese companies awarded multi-billion shilling projects under the Transport, Energy and ICT ministries. This comes as it emerged that the companies are riding on ballooning loans that China is issuing to Kenya, which have increased to, wait for it, 797.8 billion shillings. The loans make up a large portion of the country's public debt of 8 trillion. Thursday last week, National Assembly Speaker Justin Muthui directed the Budget and Appropriations Committee to pursue the matter and report on the request by Garissa Township MP Aiden Duale. The issue of public debt is a serious matter, Muthui said. The MP had demanded that the House Committees on Transport and Infrastructure, Energy and ICT summon the relevant cabinet secretaries and report to the House. But Speaker Muthui directed Kieni MP Kanini Kega, who chairs the Budget Committee, to tell the House how he planned to deal with the issue. Kega, in an apparent dismissal of Duale's request, casually told the House that the various debt management strategies, papers tabled in the House, and that showcase the country's debt status will be included in his report on the 2021 budget policy statement. So all these things you want, we're going to put it in the report anyway, so stop stressing us, essentially, is what he was saying.
Yeah.
But, yes. But he was overruled by Muthui, who reminded him that the public debt issue raised by Duale was serious. Duale told the House that several midterm debt management strategy papers generated by the National Treasury are led by the National Treasury, are tabled in Parliament and periodically, but the Budget Committee was yet to consider them and report to the House. So even this report you're telling us you're going to give us is which going to contain all of these things. The reports that you're supposed to have been giving us previously on what NT has been doing, you've not given. So sorry. You go, talk to these cabinet secretaries, tell them to come and tell us. Forget about this, your 2021 Budget Committee report. We don't want to hear it. We want to know now. This is a matter of national crisis. We want to be able to know what's going on right now. So all these things you're telling us, stop it. Bring the people here from those 4 ministries. Let's sort out this thing now.
Well, it's a good thing that Duale is raising these questions now. He obviously has he already knows the answer to all these things that he's asking, right? And it's we have said this before. When the National Treasury applied for the raising of the debt ceiling, one of the conditions that were given by Parliament was open the debt register.
Right.
The National Treasury did not open the debt register.
Even as we speak, it is not open.
Yeah, you're seeing 2018 issues,
Yes.
by the way, in the current debt register. Not current.
So
It's
this
not
whole
current.
thing, in fact, I can just say Parliament is just half-assed in asking for these details. They're not serious. They are not serious. If they were serious, they'd have gotten this. They'd have said, you know what, before we pass the supplementary budget, as a condition to passing the supplementary budget, we need to see the proper debt register opened. Nobody is willing to have that conversation. So hata wow, Duale, Speaker Muthui and all, we are not pumpkin. Yeah. We are not pumpkin.
We are
No, we refuse. We refuse. Now, today is Tuesday, so it's a day for the financial standard pullout, all right? They have several interesting stories. I'm just going to give you the headlines. First headline here is on agriculture, and it says, the high cost of feeds bleeds dairy and poultry farmers. Those who had resorted to dairy after scaling down on maize farming due to high operational costs and marketing challenges are again demoralized owing to the rising cost of feeds. Farmers attribute the high cost of feeds to hefty taxes imposed on raw materials. As dairy farmers, we struggle to sustain our enterprises. Taxes on raw materials used in the formulation of feeds is making farmers to resort to alternatives that do not give good yields. This is according to Stanley Ngombe, a dairy farmer in Nandi. Mr. Ngombe, who's also the chairman of the Kenya Dairy Farmers Federation, says despite milk producers' prices stagnating at between 32 and 36 bob per litre, the cost of feeds is steadily increasing. The traders are currently selling a 70-kilogram bag of the dairy meal at 2,700 shillings, up from 1,700 shillings in March last year, gone up by a whopping 1,000 shillings. And the price of milk in the market is not changing.
Ridiculous.
Madness. Second big headline in the Financial Standard. Military spy agency, the darlings of Uhuru spend. When the National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani tabled the mini-budget before the National Assembly for approval last week, there was an additional allocation to two sections of the government whose spending has been top secret. In the first supplementary estimates for the financial year ending June, Yatani had allocated an additional 17.3 billion shillings to the Ministry of Defence and the National Intelligence Service, NIS, in what was said to be money for security during elections. 17.3 billion shillings additional. But the increased expenditure on security arms that are not open to audit is not unique to an election year. President Uhuru Kenyatta's government has a knack for such off-book spending, with allocation to the military and NIS more than doubling since 2013. Uhuru comes into office 2013. By the time he is leaving, the money that goes into this top secret spending that is not open even to scrutiny by Parliament has more than doubled. Allocation to the Ministry of Defence and NIS has increased to 134 billion shillings in the current financial year from 84 billion shillings in 2013. Prices of goods and services in the economy, meanwhile, have increased by 36% in the same period. Security, health and education are some of the areas where recruitment of workers has never been frozen. Security agencies recruit staff every year in what is aimed at ensuring that Kenyans remain safe and secure. As a result, their total spending has been rising steadily. During an election year, more money is used to gather intelligence and recruit more police officers. For example, in the supplementary budget, there was an additional 126 billion shillings, with the Defence Ministry and NIS being the beneficiaries. You know, humeelewa? Yes.
So they're his darlings.
Those are the darlings. The money that goes into these two, NIS
Don't ask,
and military.
don't tell.
Yeah. Yes, the Auditor General will come in and look at these things, and and then she'll come to Parliament and say, "I'm satisfied," or "I've raised several questions in this
money
spending."
that was spent was spent.
Yeah.
That's it.
Item per item, no.
I'm not going to tell
You know what I find interesting is the unveiling and the operationalization of this new constitution of ours brings to light very many things. I do not think that these things that we're seeing now are happening for the first time. No. I think they've happened perhaps in even more adverse circumstances and even greater quantities. But the freedom we have to have this discussion and talk about them, as we now do, didn't exist. And also, our own perception and understanding of what positions of power meant and what holders of office were. Because we may talk of a new constitution, but has our mind actually evolved to embrace this new constitution as Kenyans? Or is our mind still in that old constitution?
We may still be stuck there.
I actually believe, by and large, we still are.
Stuck there. Well, South Africa is following the footsteps of Kenya. South Africa is likely to have their first black female Chief Justice. South Africa may have its first black female Chief Justice following a recommendation by President Cyril Ramaphosa to appoint Supreme Court of Appeal head Mandisa Maya. Maya has other firsts and performed admirably during grueling day-long interviews by the Judicial Services Commission this past week. At 58, Maya is the youngest of the four candidates, amongst them two Constitutional Court justices who are running for the job. Age appeared to be a factor amongst these questioning the candidates for the position that will set the judicial tone for the next 12 years, the longest term that a Constitutional Court judge may serve under the law. Maya is the first female jurist who has served as president of the SCA, appointed in May 2017. She's also the first female chancellor of Mpumalanga University. She has served as a judge in the High Court and the SCA, as well as the deputy president of the SCA, having held various prior acting positions in senior courts. Also closely questioned by the commissioners or acting CJ Raymond Zondo. Zondo recently handed over the second part of his trilogy of reports on state capture, looting of public funds, which he has been investigating for more than 3 years. Analysts say, based on experience and the gravitas which Zondo brings, he would likely have been a shoe-in to be permanently appointed to the top judicial job. But for the corruption investigation, he's headed.
Well, if you are Ramaphosa and you've seen what Zondo has done to Zuma.
Won't you also suggest somebody else? You will also suggest somebody else for the top job, no? Yes,
Use goody two-shoes types.
You learn, man.
Nice patent leather shoe.
Zuma tried to come and say, oh, you know, this man, we're even relatives, I even helped him. What?
Court. Where's Zuma today?
What?
Full scholarship.
Full scholarship, my friend.
Where? Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta was at the coast yesterday, and he launched the universal health coverage rollout. Sindio?
Yeah.
Rollout to the 47 counties. The president said adopting the UHC means private hospitals would have to lower the cost of healthcare. Big private hospitals will also cut the cost of treatment and compete with public institutions that have been equipped and now have specialists, he said, at the Port Reitz Hospital in Changamwe, Mombasa County. The president said, never again should a Kenyan suffer needlessly or be driven to poverty because of medical bills. Never again. And he urged Kenyans, please register with NHIF to benefit from UHC. We want to eradicate poverty, but that's impossible if someone from your household falls sick and you don't have medical cover, making you to sell your property. He says the 500 monthly NHIF remittances saves lives. He was highlighting the stride that his government has made and achieved in healthcare. Reforms at the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority, you know there have been serious reforms there. NHIF also going on and must be concluded to benefit all. He says to ensure the effectiveness of NHIF and secure funds, I direct the biometric registration to be interlinked with the Huduma number database. Counties should ensure hospitals have financial autonomy. The money collected by hospitals should be reinvested by those hospitals. He added that his administration has invested heavily in health to ensure Kenyans don't travel abroad for specialized treatment. It's the kind of development and focus that we want. You don't have to fly to India for cancer treatment. You can have heart surgery at the Coast General Teaching and Referral Hospital. Yeah. UHC has been rolled out, and the president says
all systems go.
In fact, the healthcare, we have done a lot, improved health systems. We have employed healthcare workers. We train healthcare workers.
Spends a lot of money, man.
We train healthcare workers. Our healthcare workers are in demand globally, so we have healthcare workers.
In fact, yesterday he was overseeing the passing out of these 1,000 who had been trained.
Yeah.
Mombasa.
KEMSA has been reformed. NHIF here. Now, if you don't have Huduma number, you and NHIF are not in the same WhatsApp. So, City, that Huduma number that you are playing games here with.
You know, have you seen what's happening in Ottawa?
Ottawa.
Rights.
You'll drive a truck to
Nairobi, there, KICC.
No, just mentioning.
To Arambe Avenue.
It's news hour. I'm just mentioning that there's something happening.
Oh, okay. You're telling us there's something happening in
I'm just mentioning. Why are you connecting it with the Huduma number?
Keep it here for more conversations. Like we said, in the next hour, let's ask ourselves, so why is the cost of living rising in the country? Let's crunch the numbers. We'll be joined by an economist who is also a governance expert, Dr. Mumo Mwinde. He'll be here and we'll look at those statistics and ask ourselves all these questions. And if you actually have an answer, please tell us. Why is it that the cost of living is rising? Yeah, it's a big question. Coming up in the next hour, very good morning to you. It's 7 a.m.
up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning, this is News Around Dennis Aseto. The Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission has concluded voter registration in all 1,450 county assembly wards, institutions of higher learnings and Huduma centers countrywide. The commission has also concluded the exercise in the United States of America, Qatar, Germany, South Africa, Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, South Sudan and the latest, the United Kingdom. However, voter registration in the United Arab Emirates and Canada will be concluded on the 14th February and 15th of February respectively. According to a statement by IEBC Chair Fula Chebukati, the close of business on 6th February 2022, the ECVR Phase 2 exercise had realized a total of 1,031,645 new voters. President Uhuru Kenyatta said that he is at liberty to pick whoever he deems best to succeed him in the August general election. President Kenyatta, speaking in Changamwe, Mombasa County, said that although he is not propping anyone as his successor, he has the freedom to select who is best suited to be president. The head of state further advised Kenyans to choose their leaders wisely come August, warning them against anyone perpetuating hate and divisive politics. Meanwhile, the president has called for less talk and more service delivery among elected politicians, getting out at leaders who spend time criticizing the government. The president, without mentioning names, said there is a section of politicians moving around the country telling Kenyans what they have done. He said Kenya has made great strides in achieving universal healthcare for all, saying the country is heading in the right direction. President Uhuru spoke as he presided over the official opening of this year's Health Workforce Conference. And Central Organization of Trade Union Secretary General Francis Atwoli has criticized leaders mandated with the protection for health workers in the country, saying they have neglected their duties. Speaking at the launch of the Universal Health Coverage Program, Atwoli said there are individuals in the government who want workers in the National Hospital Insurance Fund and the National Social Security Fund to be fired and should be cut off from their positions. He argued that workers should receive their dues as they are the major contributors to the social welfare of the institution. The Ministry of Health has confirmed 55 new COVID-19 cases from a sample size of 4,054 tested. This brings the positivity rate to 1.7%, up from 1.2%. This brings the total number of cases recorded since the virus hit the country in 2020 to 322,151 out of the 3,261,313 tests conducted so far. And lawyers have taken a swipe at the courts for delayed clarification over the resignation of civil servants and state officers who want to vie for elective posts in the August 9th general election. Led by High Court Advocate Peter Wanyama, they want the Court of Appeal to intervene speedily in providing a way forward over the matter, which has elicited mixed reactions from both the electorate and aspirants. Cabinet secretaries and other top public servants seeking elective offices in the August 9th general election have today only to quit their plum jobs following a directive by the head of public service, Joseph Kinyua. And activist Charles Rubia has filed a judicial review against the Office of the Commission on Administration Justice for failing to take legal action against the Director of Public Prosecution. Rubia, through lawyer Dunstan Amari, seeks to compel the Office of the Ombudsman to investigate the DPP on allegations of maladministration, administrative injustice, incompetence, misbehavior and inefficiency within public service. According to Rubia, the judicial review comes after the Office of the Ombudsman failed to take legal action against the Director of Public Prosecution approximately 3 months before being petitioned. Rubia argues that the Office of the Ombudsman should be disbanded if it fails to probe the allegations against the DPP. And residents of Malava in Kakamega County stripped naked after losing 10,000 shillings in a bullfighting bet. Martin Mwanje from Lukume village lost the bet after his bull fled the fighting scene even before locking horns with its opponent, a giant bull from a neighboring village. Mwanje is said to have placed a 10,000 shillings bet, with the opponent also placing an equal amount, bringing the total payout to 20,000 shillings. This meant that the winning bull would see its owner walk home with 20,000 shillings while the loser would go home empty-handed. The event, which many consider a cultural engagement for the people of the region, attracted a mammoth crowd, most of them chanting at the two bulls as if to encourage them to lock horns. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Asedo. Good morning.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
All right, what are we looking at? A few minutes after 7 o'clock, Langata Road has packed up now quite significantly, and getting into the city centre is no walk in the park. We're also looking at Jogo Road, which is quite packed as well, going towards the roundabout at the City Stadium, and that's doing its thing. Traffic coming off of Kangundo Road today, coming off of that whole area is really messy as well. Uhuru Highway then through to Westlands is packed. The Thika Super Highway today is not a joke, and it's not for the faint-hearted. So if you're not on Thika Road this morning, you want to say a prayer. If you are, you also want to say a prayer, because traffic is bumper to bumper, and it's way past the Outer Ring Junction today, and it's not letting up, at least not for now. Kiambu Road is following in good stead, as is Limuru Road today. In and outbound traffic continues to be a thing this morning. Coming out of Westlands also, that Ring Road Westlands that everybody's using this morning doesn't look too pretty either. And we're also looking at traffic. Where is this? This is on Peponi Road, and we're looking at James Kishuru also getting onto Waiaki Way. Very, very heavy. We are in traffic hour. Talk to us, guys. What's happening in your neck of the woods? SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
It's 7 minutes after 7. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. We are live on SpiceFM, and we are live streaming the show on YouTube and Facebook, SpiceFM KE. The conversations also on social media handles, Twitter, SpiceFM KE, Instagram, SpiceFM KE. Our guests, as we had teased him, Dr. Mumo Mwende, is in the studio. But before we say hello to him, let's hear the day's proverb.
Madogo yanavuruga watu wasitambuane.
Madogo yanavuruga watu wasitambuane.
Yes. Directly translated, small things confuse, interfere with people so that they do not recognize each other. That's kutambuana. But the simple saying and the meaning is, the things that get people to disagree and part ways are very small things.
The little things.
Little. That's why I said little.
Little.
You know, in an African setting, for you to explain something in great detail, you don't use words. You get onomatopoeic with it. Like if you want to indicate that the distance is far, I walked. Somebody knows the distance was far.
Yeah. And small. So that word, if you just add an N, it becomes big in Luo. Madogo is small, Madongo is big.
Yes. That's so cool. The man is a linguist.
So Odongo is what?
Odongo is a name. Yes.
It doesn't mean a big one.
No, not necessarily. It doesn't.
Okay.
But it is a name. When somebody is called Odongo, in many instances, they had a twin or they have a twin. Yes. Dong is to remain. So Odongo is the twin that was born after the first one got born.
The one that remained.
Yeah, the number two, if they were twins.
Okay.
The one who is born second, that's Odongo.
Yes. All right. Dr. Mumo Mwinde is an economist and a governance expert. He joins us now in the Situation Room. Good morning, Dr.
Good morning, Latif.
It's good to have you in the show.
Thank you.
Asante sana for joining us this morning.
Welcome.
That's the hot seat, but because you're coming to explain things to us, to teach us, we will just make it warm enough for a good learning experience.
I hope so.
Yes.
Yeah.
As we have been talking about this cost of living story, and in fact, if you just do a casual Google search, cost of living Kenya, and then ask Google, just give me the news articles that have that. In the last 7 days, The Standard, struggling Kenyans feel the pinch as food prices soar. Kenya, cost of living eases slightly in January despite high food prices. Standard again, tormented Kenyans. What 1,000 shillings could buy you 10 years ago now buys you something different. The IMF warns households to brace for high cost of living. Everything is just high cost of living. Struggling Kenyans feeling the pinch to buy food. And this is something that has even come out of the data from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. The cost of those basics has basically been on the up and up. What's happening? What would be causing that?
I think there are two issues which we need to distinguish. There's one what we call inflation, but it's also what we call cost of living. The two are different, but they are related. When you talk about increase in prices generally, when we do an average, that's what we call inflation. And that is triggered by, what Kenya National Bureau of Statistics does, they select a basket of goods and services, and then they track the prices and the average prices over time. So when that happens, when the price of those goods are going up, then it means the purchasing power of the shilling weakens. So, for example, we look at you had 1,000 shillings and you have to buy a set of basket of goods. When the shilling or when the inflation is high, it means that the 1,000 will buy you less the same basket as it did. And the most recent data for this month, this a small circular that Kenya National Bureau of Statistics has issued, the price of goods of the inflation is about 5.69 between January 2021 and now. So that means that if you had 1,000 shilling, it will buy you 5% or almost 6% less of the goods. Now that's what we call inflation. But cost of living is a bit different, and it has many parameters. Of course, there are about 5 parameters that are used to track cost of living. This is the food, there'll be housing, and housing includes utilities like water, electricity, and others. Then there's transportation, then there's taxes, and then there's healthcare. So mainly in most formal discussions, when you look at cost of living, they'll be looking at those parameters. Now, when the things that drive those 5 parameters change, then that's when we can say cost of living is changing. But then it is not a universal concept. It's not universal, for example, across country, across like a place in Kenya. But even within Nairobi, cost of living is not universal. It will depend with where you're living. For example, if you're living in Karen and somebody else is living in Langata, even though they're neighborhoods, you might find the set or the cost of those set of things is very different.
Similar items.
Yes.
In a basket.
Yes, similar items in the basket within neighborhoods will determine, will have differences in those prices. There are other things that are beyond those parameters that we need to be putting in context, the broader context. For example, there will be issues of policy at national level. There will be issues of tax, of what we call fiscal policies. There could be issues of market structures, like how do goods and commodities move from where they are produced to where they are consumed. There could be externalities, things that are beyond our borders. For example, Kenya is a net importer on many of these its things. And one of the key drivers, like oil, we import oil. And that, or the prices are determined in international markets. So you find these externalities that contribute to cost of living. But there are also personal choices. Personal choices have a lot of implications. For example, you have liberty to choose where to live. And if you choose where to live, it could mean your cost of living is different. So one decision can actually drive your cost of living. So there are those personal choices. But there are also other things that are informal, that are not written in books or in text. For example, when you understand the Kenyan economy and the structure of the Kenyan economy, if, for example, you are to look at what is in market now, vegetables, fruits, something like mangoes, you look at how they move from where they are produced to how they reach the consumer. There are a lot of parameters in between there that could be triggering the prices. For example, you might find a mango leaves water or in Bere in Tharaka-Nithi at 3 shillings or 4 shillings or 6 shillings. But by the time it lands on the Nairobi market where you're buying it, you might find that our price has gone to 40, 50 shillings. So the in between, the middlemen, the transport issues, and these are not regulated in our case. I think we commonly talk about cartels. So these guys in between can actually dictate what the prices will be. So when you're looking at cost of living, we need to look at all those parameters in context. Sure. But also we also need to start thinking about there are also what we call in economics, everything has a cost. You look at the governance side of our country, we hear a lot of corruption. Many people don't see the direct relationship immediately, but finally it has a landing plus. Because we're looking at this basket, we're talking about taxes. So we hear a project was costing 10 million, it has been inflated by 3 times. Who pays for that inflated cost? At some point it will have to land, and it lands in the prices because you have to imply taxes, you'll have to look at that. So we need to look at the set of all these, and we want to understand what is driving this cost of living. Then we need to go back and trace all these parameters. And as we trace them and what we call the value chain, you'll be able to see probably what is driving this cost of living.
So the reasons as to why the cost is then always high and continuously increasing. Because for the last however long we can remember, the cost of living has always been higher and getting higher and higher. And then you often wonder, does the cost of living ever come down? Or is it something that is pre-programmed that it doesn't really matter? As time passes and as development continues to occur, the cost of living will continue to rise. Are we always looking at that staggering point? Or can it ever dip to the point where you say, okay, for the last 5 years or so, we've seen things reduce significantly and we're enjoying this?
Now, one of the consequences of development is change of cost of living. Okay? So if, for example, we were at that one country, then we move to a middle income country, then you expect the cost of this set of things to change. And that's why New York is more expensive than Nairobi. Because this is a developed country. It's within the city is within a developed country. So once you move towards development, the cost of living or the cost of goods and services changes. But also, there's the other side of cost of living, because cost of living can also change because of now the income side. If you're developing and the incomes are not changing at the household level, then that also has implications. But the presumption is that when you develop, incomes also changes. So the purchasing power of the people and households are supposed to increase with development.
But does it?
It will depend with the economic structure.
In Kenya, does it?
Yeah, in our case, we have what we call disparity between the wealth and the poor. Now, if the economy is not able to distribute the income uniformly, then it has serious consequences on certain households or certain groups of the population. And that's why at country level, we need to be thinking of balanced growth and development. So, for example, you look at the GDP per capita in Kenya, it has improved. And we were classified as middle-income country, low middle-income country. But when you look at the majority of the people, they are not enjoying that benefit.
But does that benefit actually exist?
Sorry?
This benefit.
Was it real?
Yes.
It looks like a benefit in a formula.
Yeah,
in a formula, unless applied, it's not existing.
Because the theory, this thinking that we are a middle-income country and that we've moved to that level, where is it manifested? Because if the majority of people don't exhibit the values and the qualities that you would expect of a country that refers to as a middle-income country, then how do we call ourselves a middle-income country or an emerging middle-income country when the vast majority of our people live from hand to mouth, and even that is uncertain?
Of course, when we do analysis, we have to rely on official data. So first, the official data tells us we are a middle-income country. Now, whether we are truly middle-income country is a different question. But you might find the high net worth people are driving the average overall.
Yes.
Because one of the challenges with economic data is the indicators that you use. Like when you talk about the GDP and GDP per capita, it doesn't deconstruct the economic structure and the distribution of wealth. It just gives us an average. So that's why, for example, you can go to countries, there are some countries in West Africa that are very high GDP, but they're very poor countries. Because the average or the high income earners or the high net worth individuals have a lot of worth. So when you average, you find at country level, it's very high. But the distribution is quite skewed towards a group of people. Now, if ours was truly a change, and probably why many households are not feeling the impact, was because what we did was, for us to get to middle income, we did what we call a rebasing. Now, what rebasing simply does is that it brings data that was not captured in official data now into official data. So that does not change the way the economy was. And for you to understand this, you need to look at the structure of our economy. For example, you look at the most recent economic survey for 2021. You find the formal sector is barely 16%. Because the informal sector is 83.5%. Now, what we call the informal sector, we call it informal because it is not well defined. What you call informal, you cannot
actually
put hands on it.
Why is it hard to define it?
Yes, thank you.
Because it's informal. Informal.
You know, the World Bank for the longest time called it the hidden economy. Hidden from whom? Because we know it exists. It employs the vast majority of our people. We know what they do. We know how they do it. So
where they are.
So whose yardstick of definition are we using?
Now, when we call informal, one of the things we need to know how our data is captured. Because the challenge is data. If, for example, you go to Kariombangi or you go to City Stadium Market, the Yuakali, those guys are in business.
Yes.
But you can't define who they are because you have no data on those people.
Okay.
So when you start looking at them, like, and this can be well described when you start looking at the tax data. For example, last year, Kenya Revenue Authority reported that only 5.5 million people filed tax returns. And within KRA data, we include both natural persons and businesses for tax purposes.
Yeah.
Now, when you look at the survey, the national census of 2019, we have barely about 20.6 million people who are in gainful economic activity. Now, these are guys who are between 16 and 65 years, and they have gainful economic activities. So once you start comparing that data and what KRA has, then there's a big disconnect. It appears we have about 18 million people who are not within the tax bracket.
Yes.
Now, when you go to Kenya National Manufacturers Association...
just let me understand this. When you say they are not within the tax bracket, what really do you mean?
They didn't file tax returns.
Or
they're not paying income tax.
They're not paying income tax.
They're not paying income tax.
Yeah, all these other taxes, the consumption, okay.
Yeah.
It's income tax.
But they're not paying income tax.
Yes.
Okay.
Because that what will tell you now what is a formal, which side, how formal the economy is. So when you look at that, and you go to the Kenya Manufacturers Association data, They project that we have about 7.56 million micro, small, MSMEs. But the ones that are registered are about 1.56 million. Now, when you go to deconstruct the tax return data further, you find that only about 400,001 businesses are registered. And the ones that are registered, the ones that pay the actual tax, meaning that they submitted money to KRA, are about 8%. Now you find 92% of those businesses filed new returns. So they complied with the law, but they didn't pay tax. So once you start now connecting that data, it now starts taking you to the challenge of the informal sector. Yeah. And the problem with the informal sector is that you cannot tangibly define who they are. For example, when you look at the employment data from the economic survey, we create barely about 850,000 jobs. And the formal sector only created about 68,000. You're told the other 780,000
jobs, where did they come from?
Dr. Is this a problem with the sector and the people who work in it, or is it a problem with the way we collect our data, or is it a way in which we structure the definitions that we have? Because I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, you cannot have a business in any town and not pay the county some money. It is next to impossible for you to have that.
Yes.
Okay? Even if it's 10 shillings.
You're paying a business permit.
You will pay some money.
Yes.
As for this income tax that we're talking about, we've seen KRA making attempts to actually collect money from these groups by introducing other taxes that previously didn't exist. Now, that they don't pay taxes in that formal way, or that they don't know how to file their returns, that we don't have data. How is it their problem?
It's a policy question, because the best way to get all the people paying taxes is to have a single registry, what we call the single data capture. Now, this is what the Unduma number tried to achieve. Probably the implementation might have been wrong. And I'll give you a very good comparative. You can go to Rwanda now, and you're a citizen. You have one single identification. So your driving license, your passport, and everything will reflect that number. When you open a business, they'll be able to capture you in their database. This is not the case in Kenya. In as much as we are saying there are all these businesses, and nobody has the data of those businesses, then it's very hard to track them.
But why don't they have the data? And those people live in this country, they work in this country. It's not as though they visit us every once in a while. So you're not sure on which day they're going to actually come. So you know.
We already even know
yes,
these people are in informal.
Yes, we even know the numbers.
So if we have the number of people who are in informal,
it means we know them.
So the only issue here is our own definitions of, just like you said. So we know, yes, there are people in Kariobangi, and there are people in Gekomba, and there are people in these other areas, and we know that they are engaged in some gainful employment. It's only that we cannot really define them, whether they are doing this or the other. That is our problem. Our problem is how we are able to define the people that we are looking at.
Yeah, that's why I said we need to also to understand the way an economy works. And our economy is very complex. We know there are what we call the cartels, in quotes, because you might find that those businesses are like that by design. You see?
Yep.
Because the moment you are formalized, the moment you are captured in data, then it's very hard to avoid the taxes or to evade taxes. So many people thrive when they are not known. And for example, if you go to the Korokosho market here, or Malikiti, or go to Kongowea in Mombasa, how much money is traded there daily, every morning?
Hundreds of millions.
Probably billions.
Yeah.
Billions, no. But hundreds of millions, yes. If you're talking billions in the course of the year, yes. But on a daily basis, you see, again, goods, services brought in. Individuals represent services, goods come in by trucks. The process of identifying and even documenting this is not really rocket science. And that's where you are right, in that some of these things are deliberate.
Yes.
Because if you change that format of doing things,
Yeah.
then the accountability factor or quotient goes up.
Goes up, yes.
But then again, my question, whose problem is it?
It's deliberate by whom as well?
Yes.
It's
because yes, it works well for the trader not to get into this whole formal system where their costs then go up. But then why it's not so difficult for the government to actually get them? People are operating in a formal place called Kongowea Market, Marikiti.
It's a government structure.
Okay?
Anyway.
They
every
pay
morning
license.
they report here.
They pay license.
Kanjo comes and collects money every morning
day.
from them.
Yeah.
So how can we then say we do not know where they are, and then it's difficult to formalize them, for example? That everybody who runs and operates a store, for example, in a particular market, and then you have them across the country, and is paying licenses upon which you receive a receipt, they know where you are. In the absence of this payment, you're probably going to get in trouble with the law, right? So you're aware of where they are. So then what, maybe the question we should be asking then, is what are the challenges, or what is the difficulty then in putting all of this together, because it is there.
One thing that will shock you, the market on their own, they're quite efficient. For example, you go for tomatoes in Malikiti right now, they're not written contracts. You just point the box you want delivered. No contract, no nothing. Then you leave it there, and they tell you they will drop it.
And it will be dropped.
And exactly it will be dropped. It's the same way if you go to the Mbamba market, you want to buy meat. You simply point, I want this one, and this is where I want it. No contract, no nothing. And they'll deliver it. Perfectly, no change, no nothing. So the market has its own structures. Now, when it is by design, it means that at policy level, the people don't want to formalize that.
Yes.
And that's the problem with our economy.
Actually, no.
So policy level.
No. It is the lazy mindset of people who make policies and who think. If that's how they function, KRA has been trying to do precisely what I'm saying they hadn't done before. Fashion it to suit those circumstances. Look, round hole, square peg. Yes, you are insisting on formalizing in a certain way, and it is clear they are not going to be formalized in that way.
I think that's what Dachari is saying, City. He's saying at policy level, there are people who do not want to go that extra mile to actually formalize this.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
You see what we're saying by design? By design, we're saying there's somebody at policy level who benefits and profits from the market. So that's what we're saying. And that's what I'm saying. If you look at the market themselves, they are quite efficient. They are not. You don't find police there. You don't find even the councils.
They have their ways of making sure that everything is running
and
properly.
that system works.
Yes, very perfect.
It works, and it works well.
And you cannot infiltrate that market.
Yes.
No.
You have to go through the formal structure of being welcomed
Yes.
in that.
into that system.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's what we're saying. Like, for example, you produce your tomatoes here. You can't take them there. You can't take them
You
there.
cannot.
And if you take them there, you won't sell them. You have to deal with those honors in quotes.
So let's take a break, Dr. When we come back, then we'll continue looking at there's all these factors that lead up to the cost of living going up. And then what should be done, in the country to maybe check the cost of living or to make people make all these basic items more affordable.
Yeah.
This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. Our guest is Dr. Mumu Mwinde. He's an economist and governance expert. We are asking ourselves, what is it that causes the cost of living to go up? What are the numbers? What are the reasons and the factors behind it? 26 minutes to 8. Time for us to take a break and take a look at the traffic and the weather forecast for Nairobi, for around the country and some parts of the world. Good morning.
This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Hey, it's getting hot in here. The media has greatly contributed to the moral rot that we experience in this country.
I remember a senior politician telling me, point blank, nobody steals in the field, it's stolen in the granary. So my friend, if you're going to win an election, jipange kwa granary.
I think we are suffering from Stockholm Syndrome. Our violator and abuser is also our redeemer in our mind.
The whole political class, the whole political institution rotten. It is based on ideals that cannot progress our country forward.
This is the Situation Room.
All right, we're looking at cloudy conditions in Nairobi, highs of 25 and lows of 16 today. It's sunny at 14 in Nakuru, highs of 28 and lows of 13. Nyeri, sunny at 12, highs of 25 and lows of 11. It's sunny in Eldoret, we'll see lows of 11 as well, going to highs of 25 and sunny conditions currently. It's partly sunny at 24 in Mombasa, highs of 32. We'll see highs of 31 in Malindi, where it's sunny this morning at 25. In Kisumu, it's sunny at 18, highs of 25 and lows of highs of 28 and lows of 17, while in Kakamega we'll see highs of 30 and lows of 15. Kampala is mostly sunny at 21, highs of 26 and lows of 20, while in Dar es Salaam it's mostly cloudy at 26, we'll go to highs of 31. Johannesburg is sunny at 15, highs of 25 today. We'll see highs of 33 in Lagos, where it's clear at 25, and it's raining in Kinshasa at 24. That'll be the low. It'll go to highs of 32.
Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever.
It continues. Uhuru Highway going into the city is quite heavy this morning, especially past the Nyeri Stadium roundabout. Langata Road is also doing its thing and connecting with the Uhuru Highway very, very slowly today. We're looking at getting into the CBD this morning, coming off of Thika Superhighway. Quite heavy traffic this morning. Unlike most days that we've seen today, going past Zimmerman, heading towards Githurai, very, very slow movement on the Thika Superhighway. The Eastern Bypass also started early. That clog up is still doing its thing this morning. Mombasa Road, we're looking at coming out from the SGR, all the way from Lolongo at the Way Bridge, and then out towards the SGR past Gateway Mall, out then towards Cabanas. Slow movement as well. Let's talk, guys. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
It's 27 minutes to 8. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. We're talking about the rising cost of living and the numbers behind it, the reasons also behind it. Joining us in the studio is economist and governance expert, Dr. Momo Mwinde. So you've just been telling us about, the organization of our economy. You told us we've got to look back at how our economy is structured and what causes some of these things. At some point, you even said, let's compare. Development will also lead to a rising cost of living.
Yes.
But also development should also improve some efficiencies.
Indeed.
Yes.
Like the way you said, some value chains. Take the example of the value chain you gave us, the mango value chain.
Yes.
Okay. Mango leaves water at 30 shillings. Mango arrives at Parklands Market at 70 shillings. What are these factors that are, hiking, making the cost go up? See, they'll include things like, okay, first of all, the cost of input has brought the mango to 30 bob.
Yes.
At Water Farm. Then we have transport costs. We have post-harvest losses.
Yes.
That will also be factored in by the traders in the value chain. We have payment of cess from Makueni County into Machakos County into Nairobi County. Cess. Then fee at the market.
Yes.
Just to enter that Parklands Market, there's kanjo fees. All those things are also leading up to that. But with development, if we actually structure this market, like you said, market structures, would it be leading to better things?
Ideally, that is what is supposed to happen. But our structure is different. One, the farmers are not organized. So they are at mercy of the brokers and the middlemen.
Mm-hmm.
So all these things in between are driven by purely middlemen, because we do not have any organized market. And good examples to look at. I think India, they do have very organized auction markets that clearly defines how the benefits are distributed. For example, they define, once you know the price at the market, at the retail level, then everybody knows within the market structure what they get. The farmer knows my percentage is this much. The transporter knows I'll get this percent. The middlemen or the people who are doing the auction itself know they'll get this percentage. It's a similar case with China, which has done extremely well in those value chains through what they call village enterprises and townships. So you go there, you find the government has put structures, first to put the farmers together, and then they establish formal structures where the government is a trustee, and then they regulate that value chain. Here it's purely
Open
rules
market.
of the jungle. It's rules of the jungle. If you are the farmer and you've produced your mangoes, you're on your own. You only depend on the middleman. Because one, you can't access the big market. And that's what you're saying, for example, if you produce, you cannot bring the mangoes to our markets.
You know the system failure. But it's not just with farmers. You find the same even with the fishermen.
Yes.
Because the fisher folk, one could argue, because they have beach management units, they are organized. But again, they also end up being at the mercy of the people you're referring to as middlemen. So now, again, I like pointing fingers. So I'm trying to find now, who do I point fingers at now? Because the farmers who sell mangoes have been in this business for some time. What has prevented them from actually organizing themselves to the point where they can actually benefit enormously from this? Because if you produce the mango, what stops you from being the person who even transports that mango of yours to the market? Absolutely nothing.
Now, when we say by design, we need to know the commercial interest. The commercial interest dictates whether we formalize the markets or not. Because these people we have been calling cartels, they're people who are faceless. But they profit from the chaos in the system.
They're faceless by design.
Yes, and they are faceless by design also.
Yes.
And that's why we're saying, if you start deconstructing the evidence and data in this country, you'll be fined, or you might be led to a point where you find the people who are supposed to be making the policies are the faceless
people
behind.
You know, I ask you this question.
Yes.
Where I come from is a place where people grow sugarcane.
Yes.
And it's interesting to watch the development of it. In the early days, when people who are farmers, who farm sugarcane, the seed was given to you by the factory. Fertilizer was given to you by the factory. It was all costed.
Yes.
The harvesting was done by the factory. And what they did was they would tabulate for you what it is the eventual cost was, and the balance was given to you.
To you, yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Now, you get to a time when you've perhaps paid all your debts and the land is actually yours, and you can actually pay for this input yourself.
Yes.
The problem then arises when it comes to the weighing of the cane. You will find when you talk to people that there are people who get checks at the end of all that process and don't even own half an inch of land.
Don't know what a sugarcane stock looks like.
Yeah, that's what we're saying. The profits are quite huge. And they are huge when the market is informal. And you see the people who are controlling or who are benefiting from these profits are the ones who don't want to formalize the market. Unfortunately, they control or have access to political or state power. So that fixes everybody downstream.
Yeah.
And a fair question would be able to ask, like, if in the 80s and in the 70s, the farmer was able to access those fertilizers and imports.
Yes.
That time. Today, they cannot access the same fertilizer.
No, they can't.
Why? Because right now farmers are crying because of the price of fertilizer. Now, I'll put a spanner in the works. Now, look at every election cycle. There will be a crisis on a high consumer
item.
And it's always around fertilizer, it's around sugar, it's around maize, it's around cooking oil. These are high consumer movables. And this is probably because when you look at economic data, we also look at the undocumented data. You need to understand the economy. How are elections financed in this country? You create a crisis on a high consumer movement, look for duty-free.
You open a duty-free window.
Yeah, make the profit, campaign, and you move on.
On high consumerables, because essentially what you're saying is that folks have no choice but to buy them.
Yes.
So you target, or essentially what they would do is target the goods that people are going to be consuming in high volume.
Yes.
So that cap on top, that extra, essentially is all sloughed off.
Yes.
And that is what is used.
Yes, yes. And that's what I'm saying. You look at every election cycle around the election year. Either of those high consumer movables will be in crisis. Look at 2007. We had the mains crisis. And we had the 90. And within no time, mains was flooded in the market.
Yep.
Right now, we have a crisis on fertilizer. And the price of mains and maize products is moving to unsustainable levels. So when you start looking at that data, when you analyze the data, you start sort of asking, is this by coincidence?
No.
Or is it
It's by design, because I'll take it a little further.
Yeah.
We had an organization, with reference to now farmers, called Kenya Farmers Association. Now, they ensured that farmers would benefit from these basic economies of scale.
Yes.
It worked. It was a one-stop shop for farmers, literally.
Yes.
But you look at the way it was systematically dismantled to the point where it became a non-entity. And the argument was of free market forces.
Yes.
So all of a sudden, you are right. The farmers didn't really have a say in the very inputs that their trade requires.
Yes.
With Kenya Farmers Association, they were part and parcel of that organization, so they had a say.
Yes.
Now, how do you allow a situation where the farmer doesn't have a voice in things that concern their own livelihood and trade? In theory, they have a voice, but in reality, they do not have a voice.
They do not have.
Yes.
You see, when you move to what we call market forces, we go to market forces to bring efficiency. But the rules of demand and supply only work if there are no interferences. The moment you bring human interference, you break that efficiency. Because like the price of fertilizer should come here on a competitive basis. And the market should determine what that price is. While in theory we are saying that market is competitive, it's not. Because there's interference.
It's not free.
It's not free as it were. It's only free in theory. But in practice, it's
been rigged.
Yeah, because if it was free, then the farmer wouldn't be complaining.
You wouldn't.
Yes.
Yes.
And yet we have, like you're saying, Dr. Mwinde, we have policymakers.
Yes.
We even have state departments. If we look at those two examples you've given us, India and China, they have relied strongly on cooperative movement.
Movements, yes.
Kenya's cooperative movement was one of the best in the world in the 70s and 80s.
Yes.
They came here to study Kenya's cooperative organization.
Yes.
We still have a ministry in charge of cooperatives.
Yes.
We even have institutions which train people on cooperatives. If you look at the cooperative that is left that is seeming to work is the tea farmers with KTDA.
Yes.
That whole organization.
And even that one has problems.
Those one now has issues at the top, has issues at the bottom.
Yeah.
But all the others, look at the issue we're talking about now, mango prices.
Yes.
Makueni County government organizes farmers into cooperatives and says, so we shall have cooperatives where farmers are, harvesting and taking and then off-taking into this one factory run by the county government. But we don't even know how sustainable this will be after Kivuza Kibwana leaves office.
Yes, and that's what I'm saying. Once you factor in the private profits, is when you start understanding why our markets collapse. The guy who is supposed to be streamlining this is the guy who is sabotaging the process, and it is all over
across the board.
It's across board. If you look at literally every of our sector right now, it's almost dysfunctional. And that's what I'm saying. We look at the official data and we have taken informal as a policy, which should not be the case.
Yes.
Ideally, no economy can work without informal. But every economy, especially when you start moving towards development, you start moving the informal to formal. But here, the informal has been taken as
the formal.
As the formal.
As the main.
As the main.
Yeah.
And there are also political reasons. For example, when I'm in the formal sector, I cannot trigger with employment data. Okay? If I am there at political level and I'm a pressure to demonstrate employment, in the formal sector you cannot tinker with the data because companies and businesses and public institutions have to give you that data. But in the informal, you can put in a number. For example, when we say the informal has created 700,000 jobs, who is there to verify?
Who can verify?
How did you come up with 700,000? Is the question.
How would you tell that there's actually 700,000 jobs?
They counted.
Yeah.
Oh, they did.
Andrew says.
How is it counted?
Andrew is saying on Twitter that, so the example that you've given, election cycles and what we see in terms of crisis in basic key crucial commodities, opening of import, duty-free import, selling, being used to raise money for politics. But then he says, with all due respect, politics is just a metaphor for impunity and state capture. Undoubtedly, it causes price inflation across the economy. It's just, this is all corruption. Let's just call it what it is.
Yes.
The cost of living is going up because of corruption.
Yes.
And this corruption is at the highest levels of government.
Yes. And that's why we're saying everything that happens within the economy as a final resting place. Okay? When you hear projects have been inflated and all that, economies do not have vacuums at all. The structure or the rules that govern economies and economic processes do not have any vacuum. So whatever happens, whether it's by design or it's by default or it's by ignorance,
force majeure,
it will be reflected. And mainly it will be reflected at the household level. Because if this money is stolen from the economy and it is not within the economy, then you'll have to deal with the taxes at some point. Now, there's some very controversial issue in macroeconomics. If, for example, I inflate a project that was to cost 3 billion, I push it to 10 billion. And then the extra 7 billion, I plow it back in the economy. For example, I go and build an hotel. I was doing a road. It was to cost 3 billion, I put 7 billion. The extra, I go and put it in
some hotel somewhere
or something. The money is plowed back in the economy. So at the macro level, the money will still be within the country. So you might find now the people employed in the hotel are paying taxes. They've created employment. They've put investment. But when the money is not reintroduced in the economy, then that becomes a major cost. Because the 7 billion have taken it out of the country.
Economy.
So it's not in circulation. Now, what we call GDP, gross domestic product, is simply the money in circulation. And that's what you find in almost many countries. Those issues of prices and, interference will always be there. But in many countries, the money is never out of the economy. Okay?
You know, you've introduced a debate we had here a couple of weeks ago. And this is off the back of what Yoweri Museveni had said, in the fight against corruption in Uganda. And he had said, let's also thank God that these people are stealing and reinvesting the money here locally.
Yes, and that's what I say at the macro level, it's not a good vice. Of course, it distorts.
For sure.
Yeah. Of course, it distorts the working of the economy. But the money, as long as the money is within the circulation of the economy, at the macro level, it will be reflecting somewhere. And this is the biggest challenge we have when we have this corruption all over and the money is not within the economy. And that's why we're saying you find there's a lot of skewness in terms of the wealth distribution. Because overall, there are people who are very high net worth without tangible
Sources
economic and business activity within the economy.
That can justify that high net worth.
That high net worth.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you see, I
and
cannot
operating within the boundaries of this country.
Yes.
Yes.
Because I cannot be worth billions of shillings and I've not owned businesses.
There's no corresponding activity.
There is no employment I've created. There is nobody or household that is depending on what I'm making. You see. So when you have this money outside the economy, it's when you're seeing the pressure so much the people are not within the food chain or the feeding chain. And that's what I'm saying. You look at the overall average, we might be high.
Dr. So, you put it very well, because you're saying if you were to take the monies in terms of totality of high net worth individuals,
yes,
and you take this money and juxtapose it against possible developments that could have the same worth.
Yes.
If there are developments on the ground worth that, then it would spur economic activity.
Yes.
So you'd have a situation where that gap which now exists has actually been sealed.
Yes.
But because that doesn't happen, and that money also is not in circulation,
yes,
then the cost of living has no option but to keep going up.
To keep going up. Okay. Because now what we're saying is that one of the key drivers we see of cost of living is taxes. If the money is not being plowed back, it is not reflecting the taxes also. Because once you plow the money back, somehow it should reflect in the government taxes. So if it's not reflecting in the government taxes, the government has no choice but to keep on borrowing and to keep on increasing taxes. And tax is a key driver. For example, look at one of the most recent disruptive tax, VAT on petrol and petroleum products. Now, once you touch petrol and petroleum products, it has ripple effect across the economy, because there's nothing in the economy that does not have transport component. Now, many countries try to ensure stability of petrol and petroleum products for many years, because this one is quite disruptive and it's quite punitive to the people lower in the food chain. Because when you look at we start disaggregating the income distribution in the country, especially the employment income, you find majority of the people are within the law, which is below 23,000 or about 23,000. The people who are earning about 100,000 in the country is barely 300,000. And we said we are 20.6 million people. People earning 100,000 above, about 300,000. That's the most recent data that we have. Now, the people we have been calling the middle class in our divination are the people earning between 24,000 and 120,000. So now you can see how small what we are calling our middle class is in terms of data.
City has just been saying this middle class story. Let's come up with our own term.
Yes.
To call this band of people.
How do you call somebody who is one paycheck away from poverty middle class?
He's in the middle.
How?
He's
in the middle of what? Poverty?
Yes.
He's not where at the very top, and he's not struggling.
He's in the middle, somewhere there floating.
Until and unless the paycheck drops, then he will get down to...
Things change like this and he drops.
Yeah.
Or things change like this. Kadil comes through. He moves up. Let's conclude the conversation.
There's something that is mentioned by economists like yourself.
Yes.
The factor of the contribution of our rural homes into the lives of those of us who live in the city in terms of foodstuffs. Many people say that is what helps many people survive.
Yes.
But that's a discussion for another day.
A big one. A big one.
Yeah.
Dr. we thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Yeah, come again. Let's next time you come, we open up the conversation so people can actually engage with you.
Yes.
And we talk about now this cost of living and what we need to do, because it's important. We get to a point and ask ourselves, so how do we regain control of the situation that we find ourselves in?
Yeah.
Dr. Mumo Mwinde is an economist. He is a governance expert. He's been with us this morning. We've been talking about the cost of living, understanding our economy, being given some lessons, basics on economics. He didn't even go anywhere. He just gave us the basics.
Yeah.
Understand, an economy is like this. Keep it right here for more conversations coming up in the next hour. The MP for Eldas constituency, Eden Kainan. Good morning, 8 a.m.
Thank you.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning, this is Muga. Candidate Raila Odinga come August general election. The leaders led by Deputy President William Ruto, ANC Musalia Mudavadi, and his Ford Kenya counterpart Moses Wetangula said Odinga neglected the region when he was in power. Speaking in Malaba, Nambale, Butula, Funyula, and Budalangi in Busia County, the leaders said Kenya Kwanza was keen to addressing challenges facing ordinary Kenyans. Wetangula said Odinga was awarded projects worth 200 billion shillings after the handshake with President Kenyatta, but Western Kenya has not benefited from any of the projects. Now, the government plans to spend 23 billion shillings in the next 5 years in capacity building, coordination and preparedness in managing migratory and invasive pests as well as weeds. Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya says the government will work with development partners such as Food and Agriculture Organization and in implementing the program aimed at boosting food security. Climate change has exacerbated the emergence of pests and diseases that have been hibernating for years. In 2019, the desert locust posed a food security threat after invading farmlands in 32 counties in the northeastern, coastal, central, eastern and Rift Valley regions. To mitigate these, the government has rolled out a 23 billion shillings worth 5-year strategy encompassing the establishment of a modern information and knowledge management system to strengthen surveillance, forecasting and ensure timely and effective control operations. Nairobi County Women Representative Esther Pasari says hopeful she will replicate her overwhelming win in 2017 to recapture her position at the upcoming elections set for August. Pasari, who sailed to Parliament in the last election through the Orange Party ticket after flowing Jubilee's Rachel Shebesh, is expected to defend her seat using the same political vehicle. The social entrepreneur and philanthropist says she is banking on her development record during the forthcoming exercise, which has attracted several candidacies so far. Now, Mandera County has launched the third phase of COVID-19 mass vaccination campaign as the country seeks to vaccinate its entire population. Mandera County's Ministry of Health has since undertaken a rapid result initiative of upscaling vaccine uptake at sub-county level in December 2021. In this phase, about 20,000 persons are vaccinated according to Mahmoud Adan. 20,000 people are vaccinated in December, adding the vaccines are available across the entire county, but uptake remains low. Now, residents of Takwel, Belt along West Pokot and Turkana borders have been displaced after fresh banditry attacks. After 5 years of peaceful coexistence between the communities, cattle rustling has once again reared its angry face on the residents, forcing them to flee their homes for fear of more attacks. Several villages are now deserted while trading centers are closed as locals flee to safer places following the recent killings of residents as Al-Atlalua Boroi village, Lokwas Mosin area in River Kerio. More than 100 goats belonging to Komole Lopetangole were stolen from Lokeke village by suspected bandits from Turkana County in a retaliatory attack after bandits raided Kainuk in Turkana sub-county and stole 70 goats, which were later recovered by security officers. Businessman Nathan Lloyd Ndungu, who is wanted in Rwanda, has been granted a bond of 1 million shillings. The state had filed an application seeking to have him detained for a period of 21 days pending the filing of formal extradition. According to police officer Walter Marunga, attached to the transnational organized crime unit of the DCI, Ndungu was arrested by Interpol on a red notice alert issued Friday last week. The court was told that the Republic of Rwanda tried him in absentia and he was convicted in absentia for selling property belonging to another person and was sentenced to 5 years imprisonment, adding that Rwanda is in the process of forwarding the formal extradition request to Kenya. The Commonwealth Secretariat and the World Health Organization signed a memorandum of understanding committing to strengthening their collaboration on a broad range of public health issues of particular concern to Commonwealth member states and governments, such as the response to COVID-19 pandemic, vaccine equity, advancing universal health coverage, and building resilient health systems. The MOU was signed at a ceremony held at the WHO headquarters in Geneva by the Secretary General of the Commonwealth, the retired Honorable Patricia Scotland, and the WHO Director General Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
There's a whole network of traffic this morning in many parts of the city. Uhuru Highway then getting into the city out through to Westlands. That's still quite packed. We're also looking at bumper-to-bumper traffic on Langata Road, coming off of Jogoo Road and connecting with Landis out towards the stadium. And then on towards Kamkunji, that also has built up quite some. It's looking a little bit better on the Thika Superhighway, coming then off of the drive-in just past Allsops and then going towards Survey, still pretty heavy, but at least we're not looking at traffic tail-backed all the way to Zimmerman. Kiambu Road, in and outbound traffic, and you know why that is? Because we have so many lanes that have been formed here. In the middle of the city, there was a terrible accident that happened on Kenyatta Avenue this morning. Quite a number of people injured and said to be one fatality. So as you're approaching, please be extremely careful. And anywhere else this morning, we're looking at traffic coming out of Westlands, quite heavy as well. That whole Gigiri area, then going towards Parklands, we're looking at bumper-to-bumper traffic. So let's take it easy, shall we? And then let's talk on SpiceFM. KE on Twitter, text 40127. Let's keep things moving this Tuesday.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
It is
This
indeed
is
the
the
only way to
Situation
start your
Room.
day and the best way to live your day. Thank you very much for tuning into the Situation Room this lovely Tuesday morning. Welcome to the third hour of the show. We're here until 10 a.m. We live stream the show on YouTube and Facebook. We are live on SpiceFM across the country, Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret, Nyeri, Malindi. And for the next 1 hour, we are also live on KTN Home around the country. Let's first hear the day's proverb from CT before we introduce our next guest.
Madogo yanavuruga watu. That's a dramatic silence. Wasitambuane. Madogo yanavuruga watu. One could have said ili wasitambuane. Directly translated, small things confuse people, interfere with people's way of doing things, confuse them to the point where, directly translated, they don't recognize each other. But what it actually means is the things that cause trouble among people are small things.
It's very little things that...
Very little things. I would venture to add, unresolved. Then they become big. Yes.
Increasingly.
Yes, they do.
All right. Let's introduce our next guest. And this is the MP for Eldas constituency. And he is also the Jubilee Coalition Parliamentary Group's Joint Secretary, Aidan Kainan. He's in the studio with us. Good morning, Mheshimiwa.
Good morning, viewers.
Good to have you in the Situation Room. Welcome.
Thank you.
We call that the hot seat. So we're just going to have a conversation here, warm it up a little bit, understand the job that you've been doing in the Parliament. You're one of the members of Parliament who's actually one of the longest serving members in that house, right?
You're correct.
You're like what, 2 or 3 of you who...
Over 4 terms.
4 terms.
In fact, I'm actually delighted that he's here in the studio with us because I've wanted to meet him so that I can ask him that question. Yes.
4 terms.
It's not just 4 terms. 4 terms, and he's the member of parliament. This gentleman has understood something many politicians don't seem to understand. He has been content to be member of parliament. There must be a reason why, and I'm sure he'll tell us.
Is he content?
He will also tell us.
So, Mheshimiwa, many times, we talk about the members of parliament who have been elected, re-elected by their constituents. They qualify even to be called supremos of their areas. So, Wajir Supremo, and also Eldas MP, Adan Kainan. What's the secret behind these 4 terms?
Well, first, politics is both an art and passion. You must have passion for what you do, just like you are a journalist by training, by design, by choice. I'm also a politician by choice, by design. And whatever I do, I have that passion. And secondly, you must also always be prepared to serve the people who have elected you. So service delivery has been my key pillar. It has worked. I will tell you, when I was first elected in 1997, in then Wajir West, the bigger Wajir West, was the only constituency in the history of Kenya that didn't have a single secondary school.
Wow.
So you can just reflect where you come from.
And this is 92?
97.
97.
Yes.
Not one single secondary school.
Not one single secondary school.
And it was a very big geographical
It was
area.
a big, actually, geographically, central Kenya, Nairobi, Western, Nyanza, almost 4 provinces combined.
One constituency.
One constituency. So with that background, having been also a student activist, a student leader at the university, so I came into politics with a reason. The reason was service delivery. Must be prepared to serve those people. And it worked. So the first thing is, yes, what is going to be my reference point with those people who have been marginalized? The reference point was they must see a difference. That difference is what they have seen, I believe, in the former constituency, in the current constituency. And I think that's what has kept us going. And over the years, I can tell you, by the time I was leaving Wajir West to the new constituency called Alas, we have had close to 11 secondary schools. At that time, I think I had 5 primary schools. I left almost 39 primary schools. So literally, things changed, and it's moving on. And for me, that is the passion that keeps me going. It's also the interest that keeps people in, I believe, in re-electing. And there's also an aspect of God that one must also be prepared. As you do this, you must also make reference to your creator. The creator, as a Muslim, I believe in something called predestination. Your creator, but God has not just given you, the individual being. God has also given you the brain to do things in line with what God has provided. So it's like you have a combination. You are yourself. You have the God-given mandate as a human being. You also understand what you want to do collectively. That makes you a better human being. Being a better human being and you know what you want to do, then that also gives you the drive to do what you're expected to do as a leader. Not just for the sake of it. No, not as a retirement benefit for me. I joined, at one time, I was among the youngest, actually, I can tell you. So I didn't join politics as a retirement benefit. I joined politics as a career, as a profession, as a passion. And I think that has worked. And today, the father of parliament is Jimmy Angwenyi. I'm his deputy. It's not an accident. And inshallah, next time when we come back, you never know. I may be the father of parliament. But for now, Jimmy Nuru Angwenyi is the father of parliament. Father of parliament. In other jurisdictions, actually, in America, in other parliament, the father of parliament actually comes with a lot of, reverence.
Yeah.
In the Kenya context, because of our struggle in democracy, there's not much significance. But I think it's something that any politician will actually be very proud of to have. And in America, once you achieve that status, you become a roving consultant.
You do.
And become somebody who is the most sought after. In our Kenyan context, it may even become a liability. So it's because of this paradox that one has to juggle. Yeah.
And with all of that now, just looking from your personal experience and then now coming into where we look at the broader national politics, there's a lot of, I use one of the words that you've just used as being a carrier. now the carrier of a new political dispensation in the country, with the coalitions that we are seeing and then party politics playing out. What is going on? The very simple question right now with the Jubilee Party and the Azimio coalition, putting all of your experience into play, what exactly is going on and what can Kenyans be privy to in the coming years?
You see, what is going on, the basic definition of politics is the art of the possible. I'm sure. There's no definite formula for political events. You must juggle so many things. That being the case, again, there's one thing that people easily forget. We need, at any given time, to look at the history of this country. The making of the nation state of the Republic of Kenya by both the colonialists, by the both, let me say, the British East African Company, by the colonialists, by the successive administration, has one common denominator. This country has regions, has tribes, and that can easily be seen in our national political dispensation, in the way we do things in the political formation. Again, since the advent of multipartyism, coalition makings, whether by word of mouth, whether through informal agreements, whether through religiously sanctioned agreement, happened few months before the general election. But since 2018, there has been a paradigm shift. There has been a change because of the handshake. The handshake has come in with two things. Two erstwhile political opponents. You can define them historically. You can define them family-wise. You can define them through the national political discourse. Have come together. That changed everything one morning. So it's like two opposing groups have decided to join hands. That has brought in a number of definitions of our national politics. Regional definitions, tribal definitions, what I can call the personal, enigma, the personality cult-driven politics. All these have suddenly been put under one basket. That required new definition. That new definition now came in with realignment, readjustment, and even generally a change in our national political attitude, our political thinking. And all these right now slowly has resulted into a formation on one side of the two contending groups, the Kenyatas and the Odingas. This was unexpected. It's because of this right now that the very definition, in my opinion, that justifies politics is the art of the possible. Nobody ever thought of this. So for those who never thought that this will be a reality, those now who have been out and about, making a lot of noise, in the bewilderment, this is now a reality, that President Uhuru Kenyatta and the Right Honorable Raila Odinga are on one side of the political divide right now. It may surprise many. It may have surprised our political force and friends, both inside Kenya and the diaspora, but that's the reality. That reality now is going to translate into a working political coalition. That working political coalition is under the auspices of the handshake. The handshake has a number of components: peace, tranquility, and shared prosperity. If this can be achieved by these two people being together, and it can translate into political, look at the numbers. Look at the numbers. Raila is not just I wonder sometimes when people talk about Raila being a project. Raila can never be a project. Raila is a household name. Raila is an enigma. So for those right now who want to dupe Kenyans, Raila is a project. Raila can never be a project in the history of Kenya. He can have projects, but Raila can never be a project. President Uhuru Kenyatta can never be a project. So I think it's something that very petty definitions that people are just right now to say, just to confuse the public. When today you say Raila is a project, what are you saying, my friend? Raila has been part and the Odingas have been part and parcel of the history of the Republic of Kenya. So are you rewriting history? Are you taking back to 1963? It's a fallacy. It can't work. Nobody will listen. Nobody will believe. So what is happening right now is, because of the statutory requirement, the legal requirement, we have had ODM, we have had Jubilee. We also just passed the other day the Political Parties Amendment Act bill. That bill, many people again didn't understand. Even those who opposed silently prayed for its passage. I'll tell you this. Silently.
Why?
Why? Because it adds value. You see, coalition making has not worked in Kenya, just like it has not worked in Africa. So what we wanted is a law that will sanitize, a law that will inject civility, a law that will bring in predictability and trust. And that is why the amendment was just meant to reinforce. The law was there already, but I think there was a lacuna. That lacuna is what was expected actually to be treated. The treatment was that amendment. Now, for those who wanted to have everybody on board just like that, never wanted that sanity. But silently, they wanted somebody else to do it. Now we have done for them. They want to enjoy the benefit.
Everybody is now riding this.
That is why actually right now suddenly you see a merger between ANC and the other group, simply because they want to ride on this law. Before this law, they will not even come together and agree this. So it's because of this that right now, Jubilee on ODM, in the next few weeks, will formalize this
particular. So take us through this, because we know and we have seen the Secretary Generals of the two parties have called for the National Delegates Conference. Jubilee will have the NDC on the 25th of February and 26th at KICC. Around same time, ODM will hold their NDC. Now, the headline in today's papers is saying that Uhuru is set to endorse Raila at Jubilee's NDC. Now, what is the plan here? Is the plan for Jubilee after your National Delegates Conference, you say, all right, so now, guys, we have agreed that we are going to join hands with ODM, so let's walk over to the other side and join ODM? Or what is the game plan with this National Delegates Conference, which, and if you just allow me, if we look at what we have seen in the other delegates conferences, if they are giving their party leaders the mantle to go and seek the presidency. Wiper did that, ANC did that, Ford Kenya did that. Now, Jubilee has no one who's going to vie for the presidency. What's the game plan here for Jubilee?
Common sense. First of all, sovereignty belongs to the people of Kenya. Equally, sovereignty belongs to the party delegates, the NDCs. Ultimately, they will decide. But I'll tell you this, let's demystify this. President Uhuru Kenyatta is not going to leave Kenya. He is going to be the leader of Jubilee.
Even after
retirement, President Uhuru Kenyatta is going to be the leader of the Jubilee Party. So that doesn't. Yes, he's retiring as a president, but he's not retiring as a Kenyan, or he's not retiring as a politician. Yeah, so because of this, that he will remain the party leader of the Jubilee Party. That is one. Two, it's also correct that we as Jubilee, we do not have a presidential candidate. Meaning, we have decided, under the auspices of the handshake, to support the candidature of His Excellency, the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. That being the case, I do not want to speculate on what the delegate will do, because the power, they can decide otherwise. They can do this. So on that particular day, the delegate will come. Of course, there are a number of housekeeping issues. So I don't want to speculate. Let's wait for the delegate to exercise their sovereign.
What is the ask? What is the party leadership going to ask the delegates?
That's what I'm saying.
To do.
On that particular day, I do not want to speculate. The power lies. Of course, there will be recommendation.
Don't speculate their decision. But of course, as a Jubilee parliamentary group, you met the other day with the president as a party leader. You are right there at the helm as the Jubilee PG secretary, coalition secretary. You are in the leadership. What are the leaders of the party going to ask the delegates of the party during the National Delegates Conference?
First, a number of things. We have a number of housekeeping issues, including dealing with certain pertinent administrative issues, including deciding on our key partners and the like-minded groups. That, of course, include ODM and the Okoh group and many other like-minded groups, including giving direction to the party members, reaffirming that President Uhuru Kenyatta is going to be the leader of Jubilee even after retirement, reaffirming that Jubilee as a party will do everything possible to have an absolute parliamentary majority, notwithstanding the person we are going to support as a presidential candidate. So there are a number of changing certain dynamics in the party.
What happens
to conform to the just concluded amendment to the Political Parties Act. Also, because we have already submitted our nomination rules as a party, but equally this new law brings in the issue of nomination rules under coalition. So certain adjustments and that must also be revisited.
Will be made.
They will be made. And then more importantly, you see, I remember in our first BG immediately after 2017 general election, the key thing the president said was allow him to implement his development agenda for the first 4 years plus. True to his words. Because at the end of the day, the president is the CEO of the Republic of Kenya, not by default, by the decision of the overwhelming majority of the people of Kenya. So what you opted to do for the last 4.5 years was to engage in serious developmental activities. This is the season of politics. And I like what he said yesterday. This is the season of politics. The next 6 months will be politicking. We'll be true to our words. As predicted in our first BG in 2017. So the president, luckily today, he has done so much in development. So this period, the remaining period, you will now see Uhuru Kenyatta, the politician,
coming out
what
happened?
openly supporting his cause, facing his opponents, saying the truth, going to every part of the Republic of Kenya, and that is what is expected of now a politician.
Okay,
and that is going to be the face.
Mheshimiwa,
yes.
What happens to individuals who are quote unquote still members of the party, have not come out to say that they have officially left the party, but may be in the country politicking under another name, but are still members of this party, who clearly now is joining hands with another? What happens to these individuals?
You see, again, we need to appreciate the legal, challenges. There are a number of grey areas, actually, on what happens to a certain member of parliament who outrightly professes to be a member of another party. There's certain grey areas, there's certain lacunas, and I thought some of these things will be remedied by the BBI because in the constitution. But I think outrightly I can say, for those who have joined other parties, other outfits, have no role in the new Jubilee, and I call it new Jubilee that will be rebranded, in a new Jubilee that will be re-energized. They will have no role, we know them. Even in our BG, we do not consider them actually as our members. So technically, just as a legal requirement, they're still members of our party on a technicality. But they have moved on. They are in UDA, they are in other parties. We wish them well.
Are you going to lock them out of the NDC?
Absolutely. They will not be invited. They have no role whatsoever. We treat them as our opponents in other parties. So
including the deputy president?
He will not be invited. He has already left. He has his party called UDA. So he has no role in Jubilee whatsoever. He will not be invited. And as invited as who? He's already engaged
He's
in...
the deputy party leader. Let's take a break. It's a rhetorical one.
Yes.
Let's take a break. Let's take a break, Mheshimiwa. We'll be back and continue the conversation. It's 27 minutes after 8. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room, live on KTN Home, live on SpiceFM, and also live on YouTube and Facebook. Our guest this morning, Eden Kainan, the MP for Eldas constituency. He's also the Jubilee Coalition's Joint Parliamentary Group Secretary. And we are talking about the game plan that Jubilee has with the Azimio Coalition. They are set to hold a National Delegates Conference on the 25th of February. ODM will also be holding their NDC around the same time. And Mheshimiwa is telling us, so the game plan here is to seek the delegates' approval for Jubilee to go ahead and support the candidacy of Raila Odinga. Now, the entire rollout of the game plan after that is what Mheshimiwa will tell us after the break. We'll be back shortly. Good morning.
Thank you.
The political class, the contestants, everybody is trying to outsteal the other.
Remorse is not taught in any school. Manners is something you get from your mother. You don't get it from your political party.
Why are we so unfocused as a country? Why are we spending money and resources, yet we have real challenges in this country?
This coronavirus pandemic should teach us one thing, that universal healthcare is critical. Because at this point, whether you have a medical card that covers you, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Partly sunny conditions at 19 in Nairobi. We'll see highs of 25 and lows of 16. It's 16 degrees and sunny in Nakuru, highs of 28 and lows of 14. 11 will be the low in Nyeri, where it's sunny at 15. We'll go to highs of 25. 25 will also be the high in Eldoret, where it is sunny at 14. And we'll see lows of 13. 25 will be the low in Mombasa. It's sunny this morning at 26, going to highs of 32. We'll recognize highs of 31 in Malindi, where it's partly sunny at 26. Sunny at 19 in Kisumu, highs of 28 today. And we'll see highs of 30 in Kakamega, where it's sunny at 20. Kampala mostly sunny at 21, highs of 26 and lows of 20, and Dar es Salaam sunny at 27, highs of 31 and lows of 26. It's clear in Lagos at 25, highs of 33 and lows of 25, while sunny conditions at 17 in Johannesburg, highs of 25 and lows of 15. It's still raining in Kinshasa at 24. We'll see highs of 32 and lows of 23.
Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever.
It continues in many parts of the city this morning, a few minutes after 8:30, and still traffic on Langata Road, and we're seeing it on Mombasa Road as well. Little bits and bobs here and there, especially where construction goes on. So you're going to have to be patient with this one, folks. There is the ICD route and then the southern bypass to get out of that traffic that is there. Railo Odinga Way, quite some traffic leading towards Gong Road and out towards Westlands. It started really late, but that traffic is still continuing. Thika Superhighway is not letting up either. Now it's gone past Outer Ring yet again. It was ebbing and flowing, but now traffic has picked up some more. Kiambu Road is an absolute, total, complete, what other adjective can we use? Mess this morning. Doesn't look good at all, guys. There's an option for you to be patient. That's it. That's all we can do for now. We'll look at it in about half an hour, but for now, hang tight, guys. It'll get better. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Talk to us there. Text on 40127.
Chilled Spice. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
It's 29 minutes to 9. The conversation continues on Spice FM, KTN Home Online. With you in the studio is Eric Latiff, Ndu Okoh, CT Muga. Our guest is Adan Kainan, Eldas MP, Jubilee Coalition's Joint Parliamentary Group Secretary. CT.
You know, I've been listening to Mheshimiwa, and I like the way he puts his points across. But even as he was speaking, something came to mind. He mentioned the BBI, and it sparked off a thought. One of the things that seemed very central to the BBI was the expansion of the executive. Now, with this new amendment, we are going to have an expanded executive. Because the moment you formalize coalitions, big wigs in every party have to come in. And you have to negotiate their coming in. You have to understand what they hope to do. You have to understand what you will give them. So, without the razzmatazz of the BBI, we suddenly have a situation where, very formally, very democratically, we're going to have a situation where what the BBI intended is actually going to come to fruition.
How
My
so?
thought.
How?
Because you're going to have a situation where you have all these leaders in one basket from whichever region. Now, they may represent different interests, but you cannot have a coalition without negotiations and without understanding what role they're going to play in this government you wish to form. So essentially, you will have shared power. My thoughts. What are your thoughts, Mheshimiwa?
Absolutely. Actually, you're right. Since the advent of multipartyism, I remember in 1992, Moi, because of the dynamics at that particular time, formed some sort of regional alliances, and that is what has kept him actually in power. In 1997, I remember when I was first elected, he lacked an absolute majority. He won the presidency, but he lacked a parliamentary majority. That is why he formed a coalition with the
what is it, NDP or SDP?
NDP.
Yes.
And that's what actually led to NDP Kanu merger. And then in 2002, under the same old constitution, there was the NAC coalition. We didn't have any other current constitution on this. There was a coalition. So this coalition is done in good faith. But right now, we're also guided by the law. So there's enough space for everybody, I can tell you. There's enough for everybody. One, remember, we also have the national interest. You do not have to gain as an individual or as a political leader out of your political sacrifice for the sake of the people of Kenya. So positions will be there. This is a big country. Positions will be there. Certainly that's because of political power. Two, there'll be sacrifices for the sake of the people of Kenya. Two, there'll be principles. So in my opinion, there's enough, even without BBI, for everybody. We have two houses, we have cabinets, we have a number. Literally, there's enough for everybody. But remember, the national interest the national interest actually is more important than, because whatever we do must contribute to our national cohesion, to our shared prosperity, to our national unity. And I think that is one thing that has been lacking. If we look at the history of this country, this has kind of, we have had so many challenges. Challenges because of politics, because of ethnicity, because of insecurity. All this is what is actually also contributing to the getting together of some of these political, and in particular, between His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta and the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, and by extension, the other groups. And you can see, even under very difficult circumstances, there's peace and tranquility, there's semblance of law and order. And this is not an accident. It's because of the good political decisions actually by President Uhuru Kenyatta and the Right Honorable Amolo Odinga. So there's enough for everybody. I can tell you even without BBI. Yes.
Just repeat those three things again. You've said the handshake brought forth three things: cohesion, shared prosperity, and the third one?
Political stability.
Political stability. Now, on this one of cohesion and shared prosperity, I'm assuming that when you go into the next election and you're forming this grand Azimio la Umoja coalition, you're going to look at across the country and how shared prosperity is then also guaranteed. You have held meetings and addressed the media with your fellow leaders from the northeastern part of the country. And you've also said, even us, we want to have a seat at the table. What is it? Are we now looking at each region getting some representation, or each region getting some say in this grand coalition? And how do you guarantee that for the people of the northeastern?
Absolutely. You're again right. That's why I'm making reference to national cohesion and shared prosperity. Certain regions in the Republic of Kenya have historically been marginalized, and you know it. Like where I come from, historically we were marginalized because of certain non-existing historical stereotypes, insecurity, lack of accessibility, lack of product. So many other things actually were used to justify both underdevelopment and undevelopment in that particular region. But I think times have gone. The current constitution, the August 2010 constitution, actually the very generous constitution, we have devolution. That is the first step of actually shared prosperity, because counties get resources based on a fair, acceptable, formula that has been used. That was the first step. And I remember in 2010, for those of us, I was in Parliament. One of the things that we asked, we have had two contending groups. One group wanted a pure presidential system. The other group wanted a pure parliamentary system. And then the third group, which included me and others, said, since from this formula and taking into account our numbers, it may not be feasible for one of us to become the president of the Republic of Kenya, then why don't you have devolution as the only grant, the only guarantee that we have?
So you can have regional CEOs.
No, just to get the fair share of, so that
the national
the fair share of the national government does not become a political privilege like it has been in the past. Like you are told, okay, you're going to be given this cup of tea as a privilege. That is now in the constitution. That is the first step of the fair, distribution, and as the first step actually in
shared prosperity.
Shared prosperity.
Right.
The next thing is to reverse the same and ensure that it happens in all facets actually of the political dispensation. So what we see right now is you see, because of politics again we have had certain balkanization of the country, and you know it. That again has been demystified with a handshake. So what happens now? We have national cohesion, national unity, shared prosperity, and there'll be pockets of issues here and there. And eventually, I have no doubt in my mind, God willing, we always say, inshallah, that our coalition will win an absolute majority, will win the presidency in the first round. When that happens, we will be looking at the country, as a whole. There'll be no balkanization, and our intention is to make sure we have one Kenya, one Kenya, with a desire to join the league of the newly industrialized nation, because of the many missed opportunities. This country, because of bad politics, because of tribalism, because of negative ethnicity. You remember in 1968 where this country was. In 1968, Kenya was a donor nation. We assisted South Korea. What happened? South Korea's GDP today is 50 times that of Kenya, and yet they do not have a non-natural resource. What happened? What contributed to that takeoff? Hong Kong.
There's still the conversation, however, that we're looking at this, what would be renaissance of politics in the country in the coming months, right? But there's still the conversation that a lot of the people who are making up this would-be, hopefully, new government were part of governments where the bad politics that you've talked about took place. How then do you then sanitize that image? 1, 2, or convince Kenyans that, things have changed with some of the same people?
There's one thing that I think Kenyans will appreciate, and I think in the next few months, I've decided to put my thoughts together on the achievements of President Uhuru Kenyatta from 2013 to maybe August 9th. Just for my own thoughts. From purely, I have a number of chapters.
Chapters?
Yes, I have a number of chapters.
Okay.
And I hope I will have my concluding chapters at the end of his term, because President Uhuru Kenyatta has done so much, but it has been politicized. Look at the infrastructural expansion. Look at our diplomatic engagement. For the first time, Kenya is a member of the United Nations Security Council. It's a landmark achievement. Look at the infrastructural development. Look at the education sector. Even under these very difficult circumstances of the COVID and many other challenges, look at the resilience of our economy. But because of bad politics, if you look at the headlines every day it's politics. Every day it's politics. This is what we consume. This is what has discouraged foreign direct investment. This is what has discouraged tourism. Because every day, like you see, there's a fight, deliberate. So it's like we are over with one cycle of election and we start this. And this is one thing that the president actually alluded to in our first BG. He said, for the sake of God, he has been re-elected. He has another fresh 5 times. Let's give him space to undertake. He had a number of developmental agenda. But that is why the word even tanga actually is because the first free mover, he said, why didn't you stop this? And then he said, kwa nini muna tanga kila mahali? Kwa nini munisipatie fursa ya kufanya kazi? But I think that has been demystified. It didn't work. Because the aim was to rubbish everything the president did. But Kenya is very intelligent people. Even where I come from, those days when we were young, the very definition of a tarmac road was a black substance found in down Kenya. We have demystified 2 things. Where is down Kenya? Down Kenya is where I come from. It's no longer Nairobi or the other parts of Kenya. That black substance is also found in my home county, or even right now it's going to be found in my village. So this is because of the development initiative by the president. So my son or granddaughter or grandson in the village will no longer say that tarmac is a black substance found in Kakamega or Nairobi. Will no longer say, I'm going to down Kenya. That down Kenya will be part of that village. This is a historical transformation.
Back to Ndu's question. All these leaders who are forming these coalitions now, both on your side and on the opposing side, have participated in bringing the country to where it is today, both positive and negative.
True.
And especially the negative. How can we sanitize that?
I think that is the point you need to. That is the very reason why President Uhuru Kenyatta and the Right Honorable Raila Odinga came together and said, let's, for the sake of Kenya, they fought. You know the history of this country from 1962. What changed when the late Mzee Odinga said, no independence without Kenyatta, no freedom without Kenyatta? There are a number of historical issues that contributed to that. We have retraced our footsteps. And I think President Uhuru Kenyatta and the Right Honorable Raila Odinga should even qualify for that international
Nobel Peace Prize.
Nobel Peace Prize. Honestly, because of what they have done. Nobody ever thought of this. The erstwhile political, it has never happened. The erstwhile political enemies have suddenly come together in Kenya. In other parts, look at the neighboring states. Look at Ethiopia. I don't want to say this. Look at the Sudans. Look at it.
North and South.
Diplomatically, I do not want to comment on certain things. But what is being envied, what is being really sought after in other parts of Africa is now homegrown in Kenya. Peace and stability, political maturity coming together. And I think this is the new, Kenyans, you need to be very proud of yourselves as Kenyans. First, and it's not an accident that recently the UN voted Kenya as the best in human resource capital, as the best in resilience, as the people who are ever optimistic. It is because of this right now that even the unexpected happened, of the handshake. So this is a country of very unique and
also, someone will say, Mheshimiwa, that we are very good at also, just sweeping things under the carpet. We don't address the issues. We don't address things. The Wagala massacre, we've never addressed it. TJRC, we've never addressed it. Post-election violence. There are people who walk in this country today seeking some form of justice.
Walking wounded.
Wounded. Completely. seeking some form of justice. We don't address issues. We have issues that are, on the table, but we just want to avoid it. For example, currently, with the people from your region and people from other parts of the country, there's that whole conversation that stalled debate in the Senate for a while. 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 kilometer. 1 man, 1 vote, 1 shilling. How are you addressing these conversations going forward? How are you going to make sure that people actually feel that there's shared prosperity when you have two completely opposed sides?
That is true. Again, that's why we have the diversity of Kenya as a country, the diversity. And that's why I'm an elected representative, representing certain interests. And when it comes to the national debate, that is the first thing that I will look after. So when one person is committed to 1 man, 1 shilling, I am committed to 1 kilometer,
1 shilling.
1 shilling. So they represent certain regions. I represent other. So in the national political debate, we'll come together. You push the interest of, and that is the essence of politics. Bring it on the table. There'll be give and take. Okay? That's why I represent, and proudly, I will not shy in pushing for the 1 kilometer, 1 shilling. Let the other person from that other region also push for 1 shilling, 1 vote. But we'll come to the same table. Discuss in a very civilized manner, agree, it's give and take. That is the essence of political negotiations. And that's why we are the people's representative. And that's why Parliament is a deliberative house. If there was, even in America, I'm sure you can see the kind of debates that are going on. Like right now, the first black woman is going to be a member or is going to be nominated to the Supreme Court, the American Supreme Court. It's historical. But you can see the national debate that is going on, even within the Democrat, within the Republican. So even here, the fact that Raila Amolo Odinga and President Uhuru Kenyatta are on one side of the political divide, certain historical issues that have been kept under the carpet, I have no doubt in my mind will also be addressed, because some of the things that actually hampered the implementation is because of the politics of then. Now the politics has been sanitized. There is national, semblance of so I think some of these things that have historically divided us will now get an opportunity to be discussed.
But Mheshimiwa, even as you say, I like the things you say about Kenyans and all the positive adjectives that describe us. But there's something that I think we need to perhaps point to and give credit to certain political leaders in nurturing this ability to always talk. And I'll start with the late former President Daniel Arap Moi. This ability to, yes, have opposition, have issues, but yet have that capacity to talk even with your greatest adversary. Because in the absence of that talk, NDP KANU wouldn't have happened.
Yes.
In the absence of that ability to talk, 2008 wouldn't have happened. We also seem to have developed a homegrown attitude of looking at thorny issues and finding a way to actually talk and come to some understanding and saying, folks, I think right now the best thing to do, again, would be to agree. My thoughts. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. That's why we're a unique country. And that's why right now, for the first time since independence, we have an opportunity to retrace our footsteps and address the missed opportunities, the missed steps, both legally, administratively, socially, politically, and even economically, so that once and for all, this country joins the league of the newly industrialized nation. It's because of bad politics that we lost some of this opportunity. But remember, in the nation of the civilized, as a member of the nations of the civilized world, Kenya is not an ordinary state. Kenya is a regional economic hub. Kenya is a regional security hub. Kenya is a regional diplomatic hub, infrastructural hub. All this we have not optimally actually used. That combination of many things for the benefit of our people because of bad politics. But I see this, suddenly things are changing. That's why the other day when there was a problem with our neighbor here, the first point of call for the international community was our president. Biden had to call our president. So many people had to call our president and say, look, hey, what are you doing about your neighbor? What are you doing about this? The other day when there was a challenge in the Sudan, the first point of call was our region. When there's a challenge with our neighbor in Somalia, the first point of call. When there was a this is something that we need to protect jealously and build on it so that we move from where we are, considering ourselves just as a member of the peer nations in East Africa, in the Horn of Africa, in South of Sahara, in the African continent, and move with the speed and join the league of the countries that where we were supposed to be actually in 1968. And because of bad politics and because of bad governance and because of the bad scenarios that you have talked about. And this, I believe, will happen because of the convergence of His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Amolo Odinga. And I want to urge Kenyans, give the two gentlemen benefit of doubt, and for sake of God, for the sake, yesterday I watched somebody saying Raila is a project. I'll repeat this, please. Respect the Kenyans can also think Raila can never be a project of anybody. President Uhuru Kenyatta does not have a project. President Uhuru Kenyatta has also a vote, just like any other Kenyan. President Uhuru Kenyatta, as the leader of the ruling party, has followers.
Is it
we will look at his lips.
Yeah.
We will look at analyze, and that is democracy. So who says President Uhuru Kenyatta cannot endorse anybody?
Sure, he can.
He can.
What about those thoughts that are coming out now that the president may be using state resources to support Raila Odinga's candidature?
Where Raila Odinga has been in the ballot, has been part and parcel of, and that's why I call the enigma of the Odingas. And he didn't have the support of President Uhuru Kenyatta. Look at 2007. Look at 2013. Look at so it's a fallacy. It's a fallacy. But again,
is there state support in the organization of the big Azimio la Umoja
we need to
rally?
respect this. We need to respect this. President Uhuru Kenyatta is the leader of the ruling party called Jubilee.
Yes.
President Uhuru Kenyatta is both the head of state and head of government of the Republic of Kenya.
Yes.
President Uhuru Kenyatta is a Kenyan citizen by right.
Yes.
These three things combined, President Uhuru Kenyatta, one, will function as the leader of the ruling party. President Uhuru Kenyatta will function as the head of government and head of state. President Uhuru Kenyatta will function as a citizen, individual citizen of the Republic of Kenya. In all this, he can't be denied. He can't be. So if you want President Uhuru Kenyatta not to function, it's like from 2017, there are people who are hell-bent on stopping the president in realizing his developmental agenda. Luckily, he has done it. He has done so well. And people will begin to appreciate after his exit.
As people tend to do.
Yes, they will see the kind of things
After
that he has
he's gone.
done. As he prophesied. 4.5 years he was engaged in his developmental agenda. The next 6 months, true to what he said yesterday, President Uhuru Kenyatta, the politician. So for those who have been yapping around all over, President Uhuru Kenyatta has done what he was expected to do, what he took oath of office to undertake on behalf of the people. That was the developmental agenda. Get ready for President Uhuru Kenyatta, the politician, in the next 6 months, and I can bet that the political landscape will not be the same. So our friends will say anything for the sake of saying.
So what you're saying, Mheshimiwa, is that with the agenda, and you very eloquently placed this, are we saying that these enemies we've been fighting since independence, hunger, ignorance, pestilence, disease, that if we create the situation that you've painted well, we will now, in this next term, be able to overcome these things because they bedevil us at every turn. And it's the one thing that, in my mind, blots this development because the number of counties in this country where people are facing hunger and starvation is not decreasing, it's increasing. Poverty level around the country. Now, we'll blame COVID. But again, the person who is about to starve doesn't really care whether it was COVID or not. They look at the government and they say it's the government that ought to do this. Are we saying that these are things that will become historical, that will be saying the days when we used to have drought, this is what used to happen, the days when our people used to starve, it's in the past. Is that what we're saying?
No, I think first, drought is a natural calamity. We only pray to God and a product of climate change. But that notwithstanding, there are certain things that you need to. I don't know which region you come from. If today you go to the people,
I come from Luo Nyanza.
Luo Nyanza. I'm glad that you come from that particular. If you go to that particular region, even before any serious political engagement, perceptually right now, they are more comfortable. Perceptually right now, they feel they are getting services from the government. That was not the case 4 or 5 years ago.
Actually, since 1962.
Yes, I'm saying that was not the case 4 or 5 years before 2018. Right now, if you go to Homa Bay, people will say we are now getting services. Perceptually, because the individual human being, you know the combination. There has to be hope, there has to be some expectation, in the morning before you left your house, you're looking forward to coming to do your daily presentation. There has to be that hope.
Yep.
You must be looking forward to something. Those perceptual barriers have already been cured by the getting together of President Uhuru Kenyatta and the Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. What remains right now is to translate the same now into action. That action now will come through this grand coalition. The grand coalition that brings together the face of Kenya. And remember, we have close to 100 parties. Did we need 100 parties? Whom do they represent? Regions, tribes, individuals? Do they add value any to the entrenchment of our democracy? The answer is no. So most of them are prefix parties. So in my opinion, there is hope. And I pray that the next coalition that will come to power as a result of this serious political engagement will be a coalition that will commit to the prosperity, to the national integration, national cohesion, and the transformation of Kenya, not only as a regional hub, but as a responsible member of the international community.
So, Mheshimiwa Kinan, as the Jubilee holds its NDC on the 25th, ODM holds NDC on the same date, and then 26th, you have this joint big launch of Azimio and presidential candidate. What will Jubilee be demanding from this big Azimio coalition? Is Jubilee going to demand for the running mate position? Now that you're endorsing Raila of ODM for president.
It's not even demanding, it's common sense. That the running mate of the Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga will obviously come from Jubilee.
So this puts paid to everything that has been said. Even we had seen some headlines in the papers the other day that Uhuru is demanding to have the running mate.
I think again that itself is serious misinformation. Uhuru is not demanding. Uhuru is the leader of the ruling party. Yes. Uhuru is the head of state and head of government. Uhuru is a very serious citizen of the Republic of Kenya. It's not Uhuru demanding. Actually, Jubilee should be appreciated. We have the capacity. We have the numbers. We have the resilience to even front a candidate. But for the sake of the unity of this country, for the sake of the handshake, we shelved our ambitions and say, this time around, let's support somebody from the other side. That should accord us respect and appreciation. It's a sacrifice.
And in fact, something in return.
And get something in return for your...
The something in return is not the president demanding. No, it's just common sense. It's a matter of negotiation.
It's political common sense.
It's common sense.
Let's take a break.
We are giving, we are sacrificing our ambition for the sake of the handshake. Equally, because of the numbers. And politics is about the numbers. The numbers. It's common sense that the deputy will come from, the runmate will come from the Jubilee group. It's common sense.
You'll have the final word on this shortly, but let's first take a break up from KTN Home, where we've been live since the top of the hour. The conversations continue on SpiceFM. We're here until 10 a.m. It's 3 minutes to 9.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Ndu, as we conclude the conversation, we have the final question.
Across board, for everybody who is aligning to this wave, are they in the same political thought process that you've outlined for us today? Unification of the country, political stability, economic growth and development. Is everybody that you know has joined this over the last few weeks and is likely to do so in the future on the same page, or are people chasing political expediency?
That is why there is going to be negotiations. That is why there is going to be the party manifestos. The party manifesto is not a one-man or a woman decision. It's a collective effort by all those like-minded individuals. That's why that law allows for negotiation. So what will happen is, this is an attempt actually to pull together all the different mindsets, put them in a basket, verify them, rectify them, subject them to this, and ultimately come up with a refined, acceptable document that meets both the aspirations and the thinking. And you know, you can't have monologue in politics. Is a very, very dynamic field. So like putting together all these thoughts and ultimately coming up with something that is acceptable to everybody. I don't have to get all the things that I want. Okay? Somebody else doesn't have to get all the things that he or she wants. That's why there's negotiations. That is why there is boardroom politics. And all these will give us the best. And remember, the guiding principle here is not individually driven. No, the guiding principle here is what meets the national interests, what meets the national expectation. Once we agree, who doesn't want national prosperity for Kenya? Who doesn't want shared prosperity for Kenya? Who doesn't want national cohesion? Who doesn't want stability? These principles we all agree. The underlying thing is what is there for my region? What is there for Kainan as a national leader? What is there for so and so as a, what is and all these can be accommodated within the boardroom politics. So in my mind, it is the best thing that has happened. I wish we did this
a long time ago.
We will have been different today as a country.
Would have been South
most
Korea
of the
by
good
now.
things that we are doing are being consumed by bad politics.
Asante sana for joining us this morning. Thank you for the insightful conversation that we've had. We'd like to invite you again in coming days, especially soon after this NDC, to look at what you've decided.
Thank you for the opportunity, and I look forward to more deliberations.
Good morning.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. President Uhuru Kenyatta is expected to officially launch the cancer treatment wing at the Coast General Hospital in Mombasa. The state-of-the-art facility was built by the Mombasa County Government. Health Muthui and Mombasa Governor Hassan Joe are among those who will attend the launch. President Uhuru is in Mombasa County inspecting various public health facilities, including Port Youth Hospital. He also launched the UHC program as one of the main health initiatives for Kenyans. Now, the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission has concluded voter registration in all 1,450 county assembly wards, institutions of higher learning and Huduma centers countrywide. The commission has also concluded the exercise in the United States of America, Qatar, Germany, the United Kingdom, South Africa, Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, and South Sudan. However, voter registration in the United Arab Emirates and Canada will be concluded on the 14th and 15th of February, respectively. According to a statement by IEBC Chair Fuller Chebukati, by close of business on the 6th of February 2022, the ECVR Phase 2 exercise had realized a total of 1,031,645 new voters, way below the set target. Lawyers have taken a swipe at the courts for delaying clarification over the resignation of civil servants and state officers who want to vie for elected posts in the August 9th general election. Led by High Court Advocate Peter Wanyama, they want the Court of Appeal to intervene in providing a way forward over the matter, which has elicited mixed reactions from both the electorate and aspirants. Cabinet secretaries and other top public servants seeking elective offices in the August 9th general election have today only to quit their planned jobs, following a directive by Head of Public Service Joseph Kinyo. Now, leaders allied to Kenya Kwanza have urged Western Kenya residents to reject Azimio la Umoja candidate Raila Odinga come August general election. The leaders, led by Deputy President William Ruto, Musalia Mudavadi of ANC, and his Ford Kenya counterpart Moses Wetangula, said Odinga neglected the region when he was in power. Wetangula said Odinga was awarded projects worth 200 billion shillings after the handshake with President Uhuru Kenyatta, but Western Kenya had not benefited from any of the projects. Nairobi County Women Representative Esther Passaris is hopeful she would replicate her overwhelming win in 2017 to recapture her position at the upcoming election set for August this year. Passaris, who sailed to Parliament in the last election through the Orange Party ticket after flooring Jubilee's Rachel Shebesh, is expected to defend her seat using the same political vehicle. The social entrepreneur and philanthropist says she is banking on her development record during the forthcoming exercise, which has attracted several candidacies so far. And the Central Organization of Trade Union Secretary General Francis Atwoli has criticized leaders mandated with the protection for health workers in the country, saying they have neglected their duties. Speaking in Mombasa, Atwoli said there are individuals in the government who want workers in the National Hospital Insurance Fund and the National Social Security Fund to be fired and should be cut off from their positions. He argued that workers should receive their dues as they are the major contributors to the social welfare of the institutions. Now, the prosecution case before the ICC against Kenyan lawyer Paul Gisheru facing uncertainty, with more witnesses refusing to cooperate less than a week to the trial. The office of the prosecutor has reported more difficulties with witness P0743 and another that is yet to be revealed, citing that they are no longer willing to testify. Ironically, Gisheru has been charged with offences against the administration of justice consisting of corruptly influencing witnesses of the court in the case of the prosecutor versus William Samoei Ruto and Joshua Arap Sang. Deputy Prosecutor James Stewart approached the court seeking summons to compel the unrevealed witness to testify. And the Kenya Meteorological Department has distanced itself from a statement issued on January 19th warning Kenyans of a supposed earthquake in the country. The statement in question purported to have been released by the agency's director Stella Aura, predicting an earthquake breaking the Richter scale of clocking 14. The statement was released 2 days after the March political earthquake by ANC leader Musalia Mudavadi during the party's National Delegates Conference. The Kenya Met said the statement had caused unnecessary alarm to users of weather and climate information. The agency further said it has reported the matter to the Serious Crimes Unit at the Directorate of Criminal Investigations for further investigations. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
There's traffic all over the city this morning, even past 9 o'clock. It seems like it's not abating, especially on Jogo Road. We're looking at the same thing on Langata Road. Aerodrome, then connecting with Uhuru Highway today, is actually quite jam-packed. We're looking at Ngong Road doing its thing all the way through into Westlands, Thika Superhighway. Okay, I told you the truth before, but I think the road has decided to, make me look like I don't know what I'm talking about. There's still traffic here, and it's coming off of Outer Ring. And we're also seeing Kiambu Road way up there, not closer to Muthaiga Square, but in the opposite direction, then coming and finding its way to the Thika Superhighway. All through Westlands, there's that whole mishmash of traffic, bumper to bumper in some areas, not letting up just yet. Let's see what happens by the time we're out of traffic hour, and let's talk about it in the meantime. Together on Spice FM KE on Twitter, text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room.
It is 7 minutes
the
after
only
9.
way
This
to
is
start
Kenya's
your day.
biggest conversation. We're on to the fourth hour of the show this morning, and we have the day's proverb.
Yes, madogo yanavuruga watu wasitambuane.
Madogo yanavuruga watu
wasitambuane. Yes. Kwa ufupi, madogo yanaleta vurugu. Yes. Small things bring about vurugu, which in turn, yes,
create disharmony.
Yes.
So avoid those small things.
These small contentious
small
things,
issues like
that can be resolved.
Who is going to occupy which seat?
Resolve it. When you resolve it, then this remains small and insignificant. If you don't resolve it, unfortunately, they
become
grow
big and significant.
Yes, they do.
They become big.
They become very big. What they call a so point.
Yeah.
And then they become a sticking point, meaning now it's not just so you can see it because it's in your face.
Like what Adam Kainan was telling us, and he has kept repeating that. The president in 2017, upon being re-elected, he called members of parliament to State House and he said, okay, guys, so we have a new term now.
Surely.
Let's work. And he said, allow us now, this time, to work. Let's not politic. And then later he repeated and said, come on, guys, can we concentrate on working and serving the people?
Delivering what we said we were going to deliver.
Yes, and not politicking. And his partners in the party, including his deputy, were saying, in fact, I agree with the president. Let's deliver. And so I am doing the job. As the president is ordering the troops here, I'm going around and collecting reports and,
the various development projects around the country.
M&E. I go to the president and say, okay, so Mr. President, I have gone to this part of the country and I have established that the new stadium is ongoing. Mr. President, come back with a report. Yesterday, the president came back with the whole thing of, for the last 4 years, I said we work, I've been working. For the last 4 years, I said we work. Some people have just been going on, kazi haifanywi juu ya magari. Kazi inafanywa kwa maofisi.
Kwa shule.
Kwa mahospitali. Nasa hakui juu ya gari akienda kutibu watu. Nasa kwa hospitali. What was the president saying?
You have to ask yourself. Look, there's a lot of imagery here that is being used, but at the end of the day, what is it being fueled by? And then you have to ask yourself, over the last 5 years, over the last 4.5 years, who has been going around the country doing just this? Who would he have been talking to or talking about? It's not some fictional character in a cartoon. Talking about individuals in the country who've been doing just that. And who has been. When we talked about this whole imminent political divorce, and we started talking about this in 2019. 2019 is when these things came about. That there was a political divorce in the offing. Why was it? And we even gave stories here and examples of the husband and wife who've agreed to come together and they will be doing certain work. Now, the wife goes outside to look for another husband when you've not even solidified your relationship here in the house. Why? Who is he talking about? His partner. His partner of whom they agreed that they were going to do this work together. Being seen around the country, doing things opposite of what they had agreed that they were going to do. And he asked a question at that time, why? We've just started. Why is this politicking going on? We said that we were going to develop the country. We said that there are certain things that we are going to do. Why are we seeing this happening? Can we put our boots to the ground and get the work done? This political divorce, there were signs of it. There were cracks in the marriage from a way. It didn't happen today. It did not happen with this speech that he made yesterday. Who was he talking about? I think it's kind of clear who he was talking about. He was talking about his partner in this governance initiative of the presidential administration. Deputy President William Ruto having gone about doing other things besides that which they had agreed that they were going to do together. Which is what he was saying. Unless there is another fictional character and we are being we're being entertained by something else that we do not know, this is what he's speaking of.
Are those grounds enough for that divorce?
Actually, my question in response to this whole situation is what really was going on? What we're discussing is what was in the public domain. President saying this, apparently deputy doing the other. But what was going on? Because these two seemed very together in the first term. They seemed to be getting along. Yes. Having meetings, wearing similar red ties, wearing similar white shirts, chatting together. I mean, that seemed to be what changed. Because by the time these conversations were taking place, even as we're hearing, in my mind, that change had taken place. It didn't come as an aftermath to the second term of this particular party. No. The cracks, or as we call them, had been there before. What is it that caused the crack? What was the real problem? Now, these are things we can speculate on until the cows come home. And I will continue speculating on them.
Please.
Yes, but, you think I'm actually going to
I was
give a list?
gearing up, I was getting comfortable in my chair to see that you're going to go ahead
No,
and
I'm
do
still in
that.
the theoretical realm because even I don't fully understand this because people come together to agree. It is underestimated, but the two principles of Jubilee coming together in itself was a feat. Because they came from communities that politically we took the view did not see eye to eye. And they saw eye to eye. As we saw before our very, very, very eyes. Now, that in itself, I would have argued, is a sort of overcoming of difficulties that should keep you together for the longest time. Because if you're able to surmount that...
So it was cohesion, political stability, and shared prosperity.
Yes. So if you can overcome all those hurdles to get to this point. Surely, what other hurdles are you going to? You are together. You are a power. You're
So
a
was
source.
it a marriage of convenience then?
You know, this
At the
marriage
point.
you asked a question that is extremely valid to the conversation. What is a marriage of convenience? It's a marriage.
Yeah, but
So you're saying the convenience came to an end?
Yes.
Yes, as in when I'm done
You
with
crossed the
whatever it is
bridge.
I needed to get, I've gotten it, so I don't need you anymore.
And what is the convenience in this case?
Cross the bridge. It helps you. So individually, those two individuals, remember, they had been fingered by Ocampo. And Ocampo had opened at some envelope and presented some things before a court. Okay? These people were indictees of the International Criminal Court.
Yeah.
Yes.
These two. Their opponents, Kalonzo and Raila, were nowhere being mentioned in that whole equation. So, individually, you could say that it served them a purpose of, first of all, let's get into a position of power where we can use that power to create some shield. Number one. Number two, let's come together and we can show the world that actually this whole thing that you're calling as, financiers of war crimes and organizers of such heinous acts, we are not that. We work together, we are going around the country, we are preaching peace, and we are saying never again should Kenyans from whatever community fight.
Okay.
We are the high priests of peace in this country. Worked very well.
And stability, please.
And stability.
Yes, prosperity also.
And shared prosperity.
Yes.
Right? So individually it worked for them. They go through the whole process. They use the power that they have gotten to rally the African Union behind them. African Union also applies pressure on the ICC. All those things that happened. By the time we're getting to 2017, ICC basically...
was a thing of the past.
Yes.
Did it work for the country? Because it clearly worked for them.
It worked for them.
It worked for them.
So the marriage of convenience has
them.
achieved
its goal.
Its goal.
So we are done. And it's now lackluster in terms of what you had for each other before.
So what you do is you look for a new partner.
And I think they both did this. One may have done it later, and one may have done it much earlier than the other. And the new partner in this, if we're looking at what Deputy President William Ruto was doing, the new partner for him would have been the engagement that you're looking for from Kenyans to say, look at me then as an opportunity to be a new leader. That was the new marriage that he was looking for. The new partner for the president then came in form of Raila Odinga.
So an engagement away from his partner.
Yes, now because your partner looks at you and the love is not there anymore. It's lackluster now. Whatever you guys were in together is gone. Okeke's wife was looking for
is
chicken.
sitting here waiting for chicken. Chicken has not been brought. Okeke's wife hears that Okeke is at the neighbors with chicken. They're shaking hands. What does Okeke's wife do? So she goes to the other neighbor, on the other side.
Doing what? Eating chicken.
Because Okeke has more than one neighbor.
Yes.
Okay. How long does Okeke live after this?
It's not a question. But look at it.
Now
Here
Okeke
you
is
are.
retiring.
Here you are. Okeke is now retiring. No longer in the wife looking for a wife-pleasing business. So now here you have to ask yourself the question, what then happens? Wife is waiting for chicken, does not get chicken. Wife goes to look for somebody else who can provide her with chicken. And I think that's exactly what was happening here. Okay, we've seen that we've gone through all of this. And then suddenly I have no need. Or rather, there's no need for me. I look for another partner. And for me, I look at it as the partner came in the form of going around the country and starting to drum up support for yourself as a candidate for the presidency.
Actually,
because in your mind, that is what you knew was going to happen as a result of this marriage. You knew.
That is why I asked the question, what really happened? Because up until that particular point, you're talking about convenience. And I'm saying convenience sometimes can create a certain sense of permanency. It starts as convenience. You realize, this thing can actually work. We started off this way.
Like the betrothals that we see.
Yes. This, it was arranged, but it was cobbled together. But I'm looking, I'm saying, no. This thing, it isn't as bad as this. It can actually...
Love the one you're with.
Yes, it can...
No.
It can actually work. So...
It didn't work.
It didn't work now.
Because there's one of these two partners, or both, had no intention for it to work.
From the beginning.
Yeah.
We are saying the convenience was one little point of convergence.
Yes.
But beyond that, everybody actually, it was in the public domain, was seeking things that would suit their own purposes.
Yes. And then unfortunately, those individual own purposes beyond this initial convenience were not aligned. Because look at it this way. If, for example, Uhuru had sat back and said, all right, yeah, I'm going to retire after 4 years. Okay, yes. And honestly, the natural successor for me would be my partner, William Ruto, and assured Ruto that, yes, let's work it out, balance. Okay? We work, but you become the face of the work that we are doing. Or we work or we jointly become the face of what we are doing. And you are able to engage with the people. We show the people that this is what we've started, we are continuing, and you shall then inherit. In good point to be able to say, I am taking credit for all these things and there's more that we've started, let me continue. If Ruto had felt that confidence that, Uhuru is actually working with me with the hope of helping me to succeed him, fine. But clearly, Ruto felt, hey, this man...
I'm out of the sandbox here.
This man, if I don't panga myself now...
I'll be nowhere.
Actually...
I will know I don't know.
You've gotten the heart of the matter. Because I'm wondering, yes, that is definitely one scenario. But what if you sit, you arrive, give it a month, give it a year, and you say, what's the country looking like? It's looking okay. It's really looking okay. But all along, the agendas, the individual agendas were always different. This unity thing and let's run the country thing was part and parcel of it. But remember, this was a genuine Nusumkate government. When I say genuine, I mean the deputy.
He knew he was coming in for 10 years after.
And he chose. It started off with, he was given half
of the appointment.
Yes, the president, half. It was a genuine Nusumkate government. Now, if it's a Nusumkate government, the question you want to ask is, who do you think, and these are individuals who are supposed to work for the country, who do you think they're going to pay allegiance to?
So split loyalties.
Yes.
Split.
So that split loyalty starts there. Now, the moment you have split loyalties, moving forward, what do you think these people are going to do? Are they going to look at the national agenda, or are they going to look at the agenda that the appointing authority has given them?
That the appointing authorities agenda.
Yes. So, under the guise of a national process and national goody town and everything that the government is supposed to tell people they're going to do, they went further and gave the impression that this is what they're doing in the form of promises. But all along, unbeknown to us, I'm arguing that each one was pursuing their own agenda, quite aside from the agenda of building the nation.
So if that was happening, then the question is, was that enough then for this political divorce then to be in the offing? If everybody had their own agenda going into this marriage, as it were, going into this, and everybody had their own personal agenda, if everybody's off doing their own thing, then was that enough to say, then we're absolutely going to split here and I'm going to then join forces with somebody else? Is that enough to warrant the split that has come about as a result?
In this country, whenever you see political divisions, the mishmash and the tale-telling and all the lengthy dialogue that you hear, just hear it. Differences are usually about resources. It's not anything else. It may be presented as something else, but it is never about something else. It's about resources. So now, again, if one is to speculate, remember, two camps, two groups of individuals. The problem usually also doesn't come from the two principals who may see eye to eye on many issues, because them is a macro perspective. But these are the people who were brought in. If disagreements begin at that level, believe me, it's going to percolate, because these are the people who are literally in charge of actually running the country on a day-to-day basis. They are the ones who are in charge, and they report to their principals.
What are the grounds for divorce, anyway, even when we look at in society and in courts?
Infidelity.
Number one, infidelity. Denial of conjugal rights, right? Irreconcilable differences. You guys can come and define them however
All
you
those
want to
things
define
can
them.
abuse,
right?
blah, blah, blah.
And then there's abandonment.
Yes.
Negligence of spousal duty.
Yes. When you go to court and you say, you know what, this person actually abandoned me and left. Hasn't been home, hasn't been here with me, that is ground for divorce. Now, each of these two parties that we're talking about, the president and the deputy, can pick this.
Anybody can.
Infidelity, handshake. Abandonment. I said we do this.
You're running around.
We are planting maize in the farm. The man is there selling avocados in the market. We are not together.
You know, if you put it that way, Eric, then you'd ask, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Said yes, it's infidelity. But what led me here?
Yeah.
Abandonment.
This woman you gave me.
Hiya. She's the one who told me. So, these are politicians. And political differences, when they eventually come to the fore, we are given the impression that is when it has happened. Usually it happened long before.
The fissures could be seen previously.
Long before.
Yeah. Look, I think that, because you see the end result and you don't really know what was baking in the kitchen before that.
You don't.
You see the end product of it. Even by the time you're hearing a rumor, even when you're hearing that there are these jitters, these things had started to percolate a very, very long time ago, and then you're not able to really see it until, boom, here it is in front of you. But then, is the split justified? Because look, everybody who's saying, there's no split, okay, here we are right now, front and center, it's in your face.
It's clear.
It's clear.
The leader of Jubilee Party is going to endorse the leader of ODM Party.
Exactly. And the deputy leader of the Jubilee Party
is not welcome in that meeting.
Welcome in that meeting, number one. Number two, the deputy leader of this same Jubilee Party has already been around the country with very many of his generals saying that they are forming a new candidature under a new party. So it is clear. Even if you want to look at it with your eyes closed and standing upside down, this is what we are being faced with right now.
In fact, using that human term of separation, divorce, it gives the correct imagery. Because even as you're talking, I was thinking, when people disagree, the first thing is they stop sharing the same roof.
Or room.
Start with room.
That's why I call it roof.
Okay.
Because if that room...
that section of the roof.
Yes. So, after that, it may not be apparent that there is strife.
Until you go inside the house.
Yes. You need to go inside the house. But even
and spend some time there.
Yes.
You have to spend the night.
Yes, you have to spend more than one night because a show can be put on for the guest. But, and also, the inhabitants of that house will also know that these are not things you let other people, other than the people in the household, know. So you keep it quiet. When it actually becomes apparent is when the normal pattern and the normal sequence of things that happen in a household is disrupted. Someone is hardly ever in the house. And they're seen in the company of other people frequently. Now, if it's not in the open, then you won't know. If it's in the open, because they may be doing the same thing, but one is in the open, the other one is not. People look at that and they realize that this one is just, give it time. This disintegration, it's going to end in complete separation. But these are politicians. And I'm saying, this is my view. With the politicians, the differences always come in because the underlying problem is not even political differences. Politicians don't have political differences. It is, no, they don't. If they did in this country, how would they keep moving around and getting together and parting ways and moving together?
Today in one place, tomorrow in the same place.
Yes, no.
Having have sworn just a short time previously that, you were on opposite ends.
It is resources. The issue at the heart of many of these disagreements is resources, one way or the other. And a clear understanding also has to do with that. As Dr. Kenan told us, at some level in your leader, you have to be very singular in your thought, and you have to be singular about the people who vote you in. So your first order of business is this place where I come from. Yes, exactly. And then let's negotiate from that particular point of view.
And even afterwards, once you've then upheld whatever this big piece will be, you still come back with the me. I've been established. We'll come together. We help you to put this national government together. But guess what? I'm still going to come back and insist on the me.
Yes.
The personal will still keep coming back.
If you look at unions that we talk of in human relationships, one of the things that brings people together a great deal is a certain sense of, people talk about shared prosperity. I would say shared poverty. When the prosperity comes in, you can more or less guarantee that this thing is not going to last.
No.
Because suddenly, with prosperity, you become a different person.
Misery loves company, isn't that what they say?
Yes, they do. Yes. You're a different person and you look at life differently. And in look at life differently, you will also look at your partner differently. And the question usually is, what on earth was I thinking when I actually decided on this particular partner? Huh? What madness visited me?
So when we were on the outside looking in, right, it only made sense that we buddy up.
We did, because we had a commonality of purpose at that point in
we
time.
were victimized by a system in the country and also internationally.
Yes.
And it only made sense that we put ourselves together so we could come out of these things smelling like a rose.
Yes.
Now, once that is done, Omo, I really don't have need for you.
You're a different person. You see, a person who has the need and a person who doesn't, two very different people.
Indeed.
And that's what prosperity does. Prosperity changes people. The question we keep asking, what happens to these lovely people whom we know are well-meaning when they get to Parliament? In Parliament, you get power. You come across money, you come across privilege, you come across prosperity, things that probably you didn't have. And then there's exposure. You may think you haven't changed, but you actually do change. Now, it's a question of what you do with the change. For many people, prosperity comes with very, very negative connotations in their lives. When we say they're not the person they were, it's not positive. They become a completely different, arrogant, careless, the very things that you would abhor and you wouldn't expect. And that's why we complain and say, but this guy has changed. Yes. We never say they have changed because we think they have changed positively. We say they have changed because they've changed negatively. They don't pick calls from people they knew. Remember, Naomi Sidi told us here, you help someone campaign, they're in your house every day because they know you're influential. They get that seat.
Goodbye.
Things change.
Yes, things change.
Let's take a break at 9:30. This is Kenya's Biggest Conversation. So it's the 8th today, all right? Tomorrow, Wednesday, is the 9th. Thursday is the 10th.
Usually happens like that.
The 10th of February 2022 is the day that the East African Safari Classic Rally is flagged off in Naivasha. We've been waiting for this 5,000 kilometers of unforgiving terrain across Kenya. The classic rally machinery put through their paces by the best drivers across the globe. This toughest rally in the world is back with a bang. The East African Safari Classic Rally flags off on the 10th of February in Naivasha. Then 9 days of pure motorsport action with stages 11th and 12th, Nanyuki, 13th to 15th, Amboseli, 16th, Savo, 17th and 18th, Watamu, where only the strongest pairing of man and machine will cross the finish line. So the East Africa Safari Classic Rally takes place through into this weekend. Stay updated on all the events in KTN Sport, the Standard newspaper, or follow the Standard social media pages across all social media platforms. Feed your need for speed. Time for a break. Let's take a look at the weather and transport traffic. We'll be back shortly.
Forgiveness is always conditional. Even before God, there's nothing like unconditional forgiveness.
Government doesn't pay you pension until you retire. In fact, they have no money for you. The day you retire, they look for it.
This country is punishing many young people. These young people are more susceptible to be deceived, to be taken advantage of, and they're more susceptible to be bought off.
Let us also talk about where we want our country to go. You know, we are a population of very young people.
We're in a state of capture. The judiciary is under duress. Parliament is in the pocket of the executive. You don't sit and wait for the regime to topple itself. It will never do so.
By the way, let me tell you, these guys are so persuasive. I'm telling you, they can persuade you to sell your grandmother. I'm telling you, they can sell sand in the desert. Say, has anybody on this program said to you as a guest, say, oh, shut up, we don't want to be told what to do? Has you ever that kind of... Has anybody been
I will not listen.
A bit of advice. Because you're working on the premise that we should all pay heed to these proverbs. It's a very suspect notion.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Sun mixed with clouds in Nairobi. We'll see highs of 25 today and lows of 16. It's sunny at 19 in Nakuru, highs of 28 and lows of 14. 12 will be the low in Nyeri today, highs of 25. And it's sunny at 16 in Eldoret, highs of 25 and lows of 13. Sunny conditions in Mombasa, highs of 32, lows of 25 today. And we'll also see highs of 31. And lows of 25 in Malindi. It's sunny at 22 in Kisumu, highs of 28 and lows of 20, while in Kakamega, we will see highs of 30 and lows of 15 today. All right, out in Kampala, it's sunny at 23, highs of 26 and lows of 20, while it's now mostly cloudy in Dar es Salaam after the rain at 29, highs of 31 and lows of 26. It's sunny at 20 in Johannesburg, highs of 25 and lows of 15. Hazy again over Lagos at 25, highs of 33 and lows of 24. Raining at 23 in Kinshasa, highs of 32 and lows of 23. It's sunny going into early evening in Beijing at 7, highs of 9 and lows of -6. While in Paris, it's cloudy at 8, we'll see highs of 12 and lows of 5. 11 degrees in London, highs of 13 today. And New York, still rainy coming into Tuesday. We'll see highs of 9 and lows of -2.
Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever.
All right, what are we looking at? Coming close to the end of traffic hour this morning. We still have quite some on the Thika Superhighway, and it's looking a little bit better on Kiambu Road as you're trying to get into the city. Uhuru Highway, ebbing and flowing of traffic through and through, all the way to Westlands, coming out of Nyayo Stadium roundabouts, and it's reducing in terms of traffic on Langata Road. Raila Odinga Way, however, is taking a hit right now. The normal traffic in industrial area, then going out towards Outer Ring, and then we see Manyanja Road as well as Juja Road. Those will continue for some time. But generally, traffic hour is over. Let's talk through the morning on Spice FM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4
news, and we want to hear from you now. 0719-012-600. So it's clear that President Uhuru Kenyatta, the leader of Jubilee Party, will be leading his party in the National Delegates Conference scheduled for the 25th of this month. And in that meeting, it is widely expected that the president will ask the delegates of his party to support Raila Odinga's presidential bid this time. It's also clear from what we were told earlier this morning by the secretary of the Jubilee Coalition Parliamentary Group that those who are allied to Deputy President and Deputy Party Leader William Ruto will not be allowed or even invited to this National Delegates Conference. So the president and the deputy, even those who are waiting and saying, oh no, maybe they'll be going to play. Oh, this is a game. Raila will be dropped in the last minute. It's not happening. It's not happening. The president is basically going to endorse Raila's campaign and clearly showing that there's a direct fallout with his deputy. What is it that led to this fallout? What really caused the Uhuruto fallout? If, from your own observation and the things that have happened, call us and let's discuss this. 0719-012-600. Yesterday at Portrees in Mombasa, the president was actually talking again about the Tanga and saying, I asked that we do go ahead and work for the people. Others have been going around the country speaking to the people from atop their vehicles. Kazi haifanyi kwa juu ya gari. Listen to what the president said.
Kazi haifanywi juu ya gari, inafanywa kwa maofisi, kwa mahospitali. Ama ni namna gani wenzangu? Kazi inafanywa huko hospitali. Nasa endi yuko kusimama kupiga mtu, unajua mimi leo nimefanya, anaingia ICU, anaingia ward, anaingia theater. Akwambia jameni, hii dunia yetu ya Kenya tutaona mengi.
Ni sawa ende. Hata Uhuru amekubali. Ni sawa tu, tutaona mengi. Lakini ni sawa tu. We, the voters and the taxpayers and the citizens of the country, tunajionea mengi zaidi. Because you're basically witnessing a direct public open fallout between two people who came together and campaigned twice and went into the ballot thrice together, saying, elect us, we will deliver for you. No sooner had than they do all these things.
You know, it's interesting because, again, with human relationships, the public fallout usually ends up perhaps in court. So has this one, in the court of public opinion.
Right.
So we are now being treated to interesting details of what, well, we've had snippets here and there, but it looks like the bare-knuckled version of what we've been seeing
is going to come out.
Is about to be presented.
We will be told the infidelity happened on this particular date with
yes.
this particular
in this
person.
manner.
And the boarding and lodging where that person went was this
one. And
it
they paid this
hours
much.
Between this and this.
And they bought samosa. Kerry in Lavington, good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
How are you doing?
I think on my in my own view, the deputy president has conducted himself very dishonorably. Because if my boss loses confidence with me, I will have no business being in anywhere close to him. And if you read the Constitution properly, Article 10, you realize that the deputy president has been living outside the dictates of a state officer. You don't idle in a public office when you would have given way to somebody else to help Kenyans. And I think that is the president's frustration when he says you don't build a country by standing on top of vehicles. The guy has literally been campaigning for the last, was it 4 or 5 years, consistently. Every day he's somewhere on top of a vehicle campaigning for an election that it has a season, has a timetable, and it would have, obviously that time for campaigning would have come, but he has been on the campaign trail for the last 4 or 5 years. No country in the world can progress with this kind of politicking every day, day in, day out. So I'm just appealing to Kenyans to not to take the president's word by face value, but look at it in a little bit deeper and see. I think I understand the president's frustration that you're having a deputy who would have supported you in actualizing your campaign promises, but he goes out of his way and starts campaigning self-interest. Starts with self-interest against the interest of the people who voted for you.
Kerry, can I ask a question? Can I ask a question?
Yes.
You've given a reason as self-interest, but I have to ask: is that the only reason, or is that the only possibility? What else could have happened in this relationship that led the deputy president to do what he was doing beyond what, as you say, is self-interest?
Like he was influenced to go astray.
That is a tough question, because knowing what went between the two of them is difficult. Maybe we just speculate, which is not good on public radio.
Even the issue of self-interest, again, is speculation, because when you talk about politicians, what is the driving force behind every politician? At some level, it's self-interest. So everything else follows that. But self-interest plays a very, very key role. So in that respect, what then can you say the deputy president has done that is untoward and irregular with regards to his position?
No, what is irregular about the deputy president? You and me can agree that so far he looks like a person who has nothing to do in government. He does not have official functions. He does not have anything that he can add value. And you know, like I'm comparing with the vice president of Rwanda. Nobody knows him, but if you ask anybody, they will tell you that he's the brains behind the village computer hub that helps the youth to connect to the rest of the world. You see, policy-wise, the vice president of Rwanda, despite not being known, is influencing some positive change in Rwanda. But what of our own here? Our own here, there is no a single policy decision that cannot be attributed to him.
Okay.
He has 100 and something MPs. He can use his influence among those 100 and something MPs to do some legislation in Parliament that will influence change or bring positive change to the country. But he has done none of that. That is why I'm saying he has been advancing self-interest as against public interest, which is the calling of his office.
Thank you, Kerry. Jack in Eldoret, good morning.
Morning to you.
How are you?
I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see anything. I don't see any ajabu hapo. Yeah, everything is just fine. And if you look at those two people very well, they don't attack each other directly. For example, like yesterday, you hear that the president never mentioned about his deputy at all. And when you see in most rallies of the UDA, you can find that his deputy is not talking about the president directly. You see? So this means that these people might have agreed on something that we don't know. If you look at now, from 2013 to now, Uhuru became the president, Ruto became the deputy. So all of them have benefited from the offices. The only people who are losing are us because we are just following the wind. As in, if you see them, you even if whoever is going to be elected in this election of 2022, the president will still not lose. He has the chance to go to his deputy and tell him, give me something, and go to the other side and tell them, if you give me something. So at the end, he's going to benefit from either side of who won.
So you don't think there's a fallout?
And eventually, there will be an handshake, you see. Wao wanasema tumebadilisha msitu lakini nyani ni wale wale. So us are going to suffer. Tuendelee tu.
Thank you, Jack. Zachary, good morning.
Oh, morning, people.
How you doing?
Morning, person. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine, thank you, Mr. Institutional Memory.
Okay, Godfather, Sema.
How is you?
Fine, thanks, my brother.
Now, because I may get one by the credit, let me address you and tell you that you should, as our institutional memory there, remind people that Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta and Mr. Raila Odinga were on the same side in 2005.
Yes.
During the first referendum, yeah?
Referendum.
And tell people, remind them that referendum gave birth to ODM. So, in my view, as Baba Izira or here as Mr. Zakaria, deep in my heart, I have been seeing Mr. Uhuru as part of ODM, actually, all along.
Oh, okay.
Then came the 2013, and I think you have mentioned the word that I first mentioned in this program, the marriage of convenience. That if I do, like now you have heard that I've been criticized the warebo na Zakaria.
Yeah.
Mama Waithera may not have gone down well with Mama Waithera, but because we have Waithera, we have Gikonyo and the rest to bring up to, she will just persevere, but this is now the marriage of convenience. That because you have this kid, and this guy is now Baba Warebo. So this is my point, yeah? And that is why I told you that in 2013, despite having come from the same place with our president, I said, no, I'm not going to vote in this guy because one thing, they have not been cleared. And we cannot be cleverer than the international people who found that these guys have got a case to answer. Whether it was true or false, let them clear themselves. And then they find themselves in the same hole. What did they have to do, both of them? They have to actually enter into a marriage of convenience so that they can save themselves, not us. Okay? And now, they have been cleared. So one of them realizes, oh, I had a sweeter, way with 205. Let me go back to him, okay? So let us wait. And I remember telling you people that when the coalition government was formed, I used to be a part of the BBC audience before the SpiceFM happened. And one reporter who was assigned looking at the issue of Kenya asked, for how long is this going peace to hold? And I remember telling you that, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And our institutional memory is there. Let me not call him the one that starts with F. And ends with L. He should be telling you that.
You have done such a wonderful job of doing this. It is my turn to call you the institutional memory.
No, so you want to call me the fossil?
Yes. Fossil is a good word.
You guys have a nice day.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, Zachary.
And invite me there one day.
Asante, we will invite you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
All right, 0719-012-600. What really is behind the fallout between President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto? What exactly is behind that fallout? That's what we're discussing this morning, because we can clearly see there has been some fallout. Listen, yesterday when the president was speaking in Mombasa, he talked about that, what we've just played, which was him saying, kazi haifanywi juu ya gari. He also said this.
Jamani, saa ingine muache kujipiga. Tumesonga. Mastori ya watu huko kupepeta huko kwa mikutano, kuongea mauongo huko, haiwezi kubadilisha yale yamefanyika. Tunaelewana wenzangu? Let us remain focused. Let us remain focused. If there are things that are not right, that's why you're here. To help us, tell us, here we can do better, here we can do better, here we can do better. Lakini mambo ya kuongea maneno matupu.
Mary in Gomo, good morning.
Oh.
Hello.
Eric.
Yes, good morning.
How are you, Eric?
I'm very well, thank you.
I listen to you guys every morning. I feel I cannot do, unless I'm occupied somewhere. Today, it's so interesting. But I want to say this. Uhuru has not persuaded anybody anywhere. If I can remember his words, he said he would not support a Kalenjin or a Kikuyu. And time has come when he has decided to support another tribe. You see, he's only trying to tell us that Kenya belongs to many tribes, and that not narrow our leadership to two tribes. Now, if Ruto rules in 2022, if we can't rule in 2022, what message are other tribes getting from the leadership? And so, I don't see any betrayal, but I think Uhuru has done a lot. Uhuru is a gentleman. Uhuru has worked for us. I've seen 4 presidents. I'm an old woman. I saw Kenyatta. I saw Moi. I saw Kibaki. I've seen Uhuru. And I want to tell you for free, Kibaki really worked. If only Uhuru had a minded person to work with from 2013, leave alone the rigging, whatever. But if Uhuru had a team, a good team to work with, I want to tell you Kenya would be very far with devolution. So Kenya stop being petty and tribal, to just focus on the good leaders that we can have in place to change our country. Thank you very much. And
thank you, Mary, and we're glad that you're always tuned into the Situation Room. John Jeroge in Mombasa.
Good morning.
Morning, John. It's been a while.
It's been a while, I tell you.
Yeah, bueno.
But I'm addicted to your show. Every time I don't listen, I'm kind of sad. I have to listen to you guys.
Asante sana. So, what do you think is the cause of the fallout between the president and his deputy?
For me, I still think it's a genius move. Because if we look at this whole scenario and ask ourselves for the scorecard of Jubilee, I think Jubilee have failed miserably. Because if you look at the way things were when Kibaki left, and the way things are, Kenyans are poor, Kenyans are more sicker, and Kenyans are more indebted. So when this time comes, these two guys knew if Raila will be on the other side, they'll just sweep them off. They have to play it smart. Raila have to be pulled in the government. I don't know what he was promised. And Ruto have to pretend he's outside the government. So right now, nobody is really criticizing the government the way it should be. Because here is a vice president or is a deputy president who is already in there. He was in the government when he made the promises. And now he can critique the government. And here is a man who have been on the other side all the time. Now have been pulled in. And now he can only be on the side of the government. So for me, by a long shot, there's no fallout. Just self-interest and to get back in power and do what they do best.
So this is just a strategy.
It's a strategy, a very good one. It will be a case study.
Wool of our eyes.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, John.
You're most welcome.
Thank you. 0719 012 600. Two people now have said, this is John and Jack. Mombasa and Eldoret. Ini game. Tunachezwa. Mary says, look, it's all about the president is seeking to have national cohesion. He's promoting national cohesion. It's nothing about, betrayal, one thing or the other.
If you consider our history and the musical chairs we keep playing with our political parties and alignments, the commonality of that particular conversation is that these people talk to each other.
On a regular.
All of them. There is some form of communication. So the two gentlemen who have come up and said, this one, it looks like a game is being played. They have good reason to have that particular perspective.
It wouldn't be the first time you've seen something like that. People who were warring on warring ends at one point, and then in a short few clicks, they were together. I mean, sharing the same vision that previously had been extremely polarized. I mean, then you would sit back in awe and wonder, when did all of this happen? Having the same cup of tea, where previously you would have thought that one would have poisoned the other very easily. And then people are then shell-shocked as, how can this be possibly happening? So yeah, those who would have that point of view, because of the perception, wouldn't be too far off.
But then, like City, you keep reminding us, these are politicians.
These are politicians.
And politicians are constantly shifting based on where their interests lie at the point. Are politicians also capable of having a 4-year game plan?
And string it out for 4 years.
For 4 years. Like, this is a game.
Yes.
We shall play it like this for 4 years.
Asking the question that you're asking, I think your reference point is, are they capable of structuring a situation where in relationship to other people, they can actually mount an activity that will lead to a certain desired outcome? I was going to fragment it and say, at the level of seeking personal interest, my friend, they can string that thing for as long as they're in power.
If the end result...
And they follow the script throughout without betraying the cause.
No. The beauty of a politician is the rubbery spinal cord that they have. They can shift in directions you didn't even think was possible to shift. And that in itself is a good thing for our politics. Because if you have people who are willing to change their minds, then you don't have these hard and fast situations where now all you're doing is breeding conflict. Somebody looks at this thing and says, perhaps I need to move left as opposed to... And this is having declared they will never move from the position they are in.
Never.
And that's why I'm asking you, City. So is it possible that, as John is saying, the president and the deputy could have actually sat back in 2017 and said, you know what, we need to present a different case come 2022. So from this point on, you and I, for purposes of the public, we shall not be seeing eye to eye politically.
That theory could work insofar as we are looking at these two principles as the only entities in this game. They are not. Remember, we started off by two clear camps, president's camp, deputy's camp. Here lies the pot under the water that is always ready for boiling, and most of the time is actually boiling. Because these fellows also have interests. And these interests will conflict. Because there are resources that are always at play, It is the conflict, my view, at this level, that normally cascades and goes up to now the principals. So you can think, the two of you, that's what you want.
But then...
there is harmony that your two groups have, because again of their self-interest and what it is that they think they ought to do with regards to the resources. My friend, there'll be a split. There will be a split.
Okay. So let's conclude with the day's proverb.
Madogo yanavuruga watu wasitambuane. You know, when somebody talked about one of our callers, small tribal issues, I said, point.
Kwisha.
Yes. Point.
Small.
You make it big, and yet, in all honesty, that is really not the issue. It's not that you come from this tribe and somebody comes from the other tribe. It's, again, let me repeat, resources.
Thank you for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation today. Join us again tomorrow morning. We'll be here from 6 a.m. on until 10 a.m. for other conversations on matters reflecting on issues that are happening in the country, regionally and globally. Eric Latiff, Ndu Okoh and CT Muga wishing you a lovely day. Have some nice uninterrupted music for an hour before Sugar and Spices, Yolanda and DJ Who? Absolute. Coming at 11. Lovely day, folks. It's now 10 a.m.